Welcome in to another episode of the PFF College Football Show. Max Chadwick alongside Dalton Wasserman here, breaking down Week 11 of the 2025 college football season. It was a massive Week 11. 3 top 15 teams lost in Week 11. 4 in the top 20, Dalton. It was a very eventful and chaotic weekend, and the playoffs coming up very, very soon.
Wild games in the Big Ten, and teams just barely clinging to their playoff hopes, right? And some losing them along the way, and then just chaos in the ACC. It's starting to feel like, I think we said this a few weeks ago, but this year's ACC is last year's Big 12. I don't know if there's a 4-way tie, 5-way tie, what kind of tiebreakers we could have coming in the ACC, but it got turned upside down last night, especially with 2 big upsets, Louisville and Virginia going down. I think that's a huge story for me heading into future weeks, and there's some huge games left head-to-head between a lot of those teams that are tied.
Yeah, we have so much to get to in the final few weeks of the 2025 college football regular season. A lot to get to here on this Week 11 grade release and review show. We're going to go over the 10 biggest games from Week 11, release the grades, and also tell you all the stats you need to know from all those games. And all of those stats and all of those grades are available to you guys right now with a PFF Plus subscription at subscribe.pff.com. And as always, you can get it for 25% off right now if you use the promo code PFFCFB25. Dalton, we're still in first place of that contest right now. Really appreciate you guys for using that promo code. Please keep using it, or use it if you have not used it yet, though, and get the best subscription in sports for 25% off right now when you use the promo code PFFCFB25. All right, let's get to the first game. An awesome game that we had in the Big Ten between 2 top 20 teams, and Oregon barely squeaking out over Iowa. 18-16, the final score in that game. Let's go over the highest graded player, starting off with the victorious Oregon Ducks. Highest graded player was the true freshman corner, Brandon Finney Jr. I'll get to him later on in the show. 83.1 grade. Offensive guard, Emmanuel Pregnon, 82.2. Offensive tackle, Isaiah World, 73. Another offensive lineman here in the star center, Yapani Lalulu, 71.2. Running back Noah Whittington, 70.6. And Dante Moore with a very solid 75.2 grade. An amazing throw at the very end of the game to put Oregon in field goal range. For Iowa, their highest grade players in the loss, offensive guard Bo Stevens, 90.8 grade. Tight end Hayden Large, 82.6. Another tight end here in DJ Vonami, 82.2. Logan Jones with an 80. The center, offensive tackle Trevor Lauk, 77.7. And quarterback Mark Gronowski, 69.3. Dalton, what was the stat that told the story in this game?
Tell you, we talked so much, over the years of doing this show now about Oregon and their offense, right? And it's all about Will Stein and Bo Nix and Dylan Gabriel and Dante Moore, quarterbacks, wide receivers, pass protection, all the flashy stuff. But at the end of the day, Max, don't forget that Dan Lanning is a defensive coach coming from the SEC. That is his bread and butter. And in this game, they had to win it with their defense at Iowa. It turned into a true Iowa football game. It's shown in the final score. It was shown with the weather and some of the mistakes along the way and just the ugly offensive football that we saw. But I think the stat that Dan Lanning would be most proud of, how about only 4 missed tackles the entire game for the Oregon Ducks? And they're one of the best tackling teams in the country. They've been that all year. They only have 1 game this season, the double overtime win over Penn State, where they missed more than 10 tackles. Only 1 explosive run allowed, obviously huge against an Iowa team. And look, you saw it with 3 of their 5 offensive linemen in the top 5 of the highest graded there. Iowa really still blocked well up front, as they do every week. This is by far the best offensive line in the country. They should win the Joe Moore Award by a mile. And yet Oregon, at the second level of their defense, swarmed to the football, tackled well, prevented those forced missed tackles and yards after contact that can really hurt you against Iowa. It wasn't always pretty, but they got the job done. They also only allowed 2 passes longer than 17 yards. Those were the 2 drives that resulted in Iowa touchdowns. But when you prevent those explosive plays at that rate, especially on the ground against this Iowa team, you're in for a lot of success on defense. That's exactly what happened. They certainly wavered at the end with the final drive. The Hawkeyes put together an awesome drive. What was it, 96 yards, I believe it was, starting inside their own 5-yard line. But they came back. Dante Moore made the one throw they needed to. But this really, to me, was about Oregon embracing this style of ball that they were getting, going into Iowa in the pouring rain and playing just as physical as the Hawkeyes did.
Yeah, I remember when, the Big Ten added the 4 new teams in Oregon, USC, Washington, UCLA. They were like, everyone was saying, well, they're not going to be able to compete physically in the Big Ten. I was like, have you seen Oregon lately, man? What they've done in the Pac-12 and what they're doing now in the Big Ten, too? They can absolutely compete physically in the Big Ten. Really, my stat is the rushing difference in this game, because I went into the preview saying, okay, the winner of this game will be who runs the football better, especially when it's pouring rain in Iowa as well. And Oregon won this battle by a wide margin. Oregon averaged 7.3 yards per carry in this game. Iowa entered the week third in the country in yards per carry allowed at about 3.3 this year. Oregon averaged 7.3 against the Hawkeyes. Iowa, meanwhile, only 3.5 yards per carry, even though they have the best offensive line in college football right now. Oregon averaged 2.9 yards before contact per carry. Iowa only averaged 0.8. Oregon, 4.4 yards after contact per carry. Iowa, only 2.7. 7 runs of 10 or more yards for Oregon, only one of them for the Hawkeyes. Again, in the pouring rain, Oregon's elite run game that has been the most efficient run game in college football this year in terms of EPA per play ran all over a fantastic Iowa run defense. And meanwhile, Iowa's elite offensive line could not generate enough push against an Oregon defense that really stacked the box on them.
I mean, that's really the key number there. In a game like this, as physical as you have to play against this Iowa team, 7.3 yards per carry for Oregon. You look at Noah Whittington with a great game. De'Aaron Hill with a touchdown. Jordan Davison was really good. Dante Moore even with a 49-yard run on a read option keep there. I think that's the idea, is that Dan Lanning and Will Stein, they knew what type of game they were in for. With this opponent, in this weather, in this stadium, this is just what Iowa games turn into. Again, on both sides of the ball, Oregon fully embraced that, and they just found a way to win. And honestly, when you're coming out of Iowa, that's just what you want to do, is just find a way to win a game, find a way to win this game, because Iowa's one of the most unique teams to play against, and they're going to give you everything they have every single time.
So Iowa entered the week, Dalton, with the highest run blocking grade in the country. Oregon entered the week with the highest pass blocking grade in the country, and I would say both offensive lines did pretty well in this one.
They sure did. You look at Oregon's offensive line with a 75 overall grade, and of course they showcased the pass protection. You know, Dante Moore, we'll check it on review again, but the first time through, and I watched it through as well, all his dropbacks, he was not pressured a single time in this game. Not once. I mean, Oregon's pass, they're the best pass blocking team in the country. Iowa's second right behind him in that category as well. Iowa with a 92.6 pass blocking grade of their own. Oregon with a 94. I think just a credit, even though it was a low scoring game, you might not think too many guys graded highly, but these two offensive lines were outstanding, and that's with Oregon missing the right tackle, Alex Harkey, due to injury in this game. And of course, Logan Jones and those guys on that Iowa front, I mean, they're just outstanding too. So just a credit. It was really fun. If you like offensive line play, go back and watch this game, because these are two of the best in the business.
Absolutely. I want to shout out on the Oregon defensive side, their true freshman corner, Brandon Finney Jr., the highest graded player for Oregon in this game. He was a star for the Ducks in this one. He had a forced fumble on a huge hit in this one. Only allowed 14 yards on 18 coverage snaps with 2 coverage stops as well, an 82.2 coverage grade. He has been a star corner for Oregon all year. 84.3 coverage grade is the best among all true freshman corners right now in college football. He's a 4-star recruit coming out of high school, and he's played like a 5-star basically the way he's looked this year.
Absolutely. I thought the forced fumble on Caden Weechin, that was such a huge play with Iowa driving inside into Oregon's red zone there. I mean, just such a big play in run defense there that really flipped things around when it looked like Iowa had a lot of momentum going. So, look, you've been looking for guys. They've replaced a lot of veterans from last year's secondary on this Oregon defense, and Tosh Lapoy did a great job of just getting these young guys together. But Finney was outstanding in this game. To get that kind of game on the road in this matchup from a true freshman, just outstanding stuff.
Absolutely. Oregon getting a huge win over Iowa and moving on to continue to be one of the top contenders to make the playoff right now. Iowa, meanwhile, is unfortunately probably a death sentence for their playoff hopes, up from their 3rd loss of the year to Oregon. Still some big games for Iowa coming up very soon that we'll, of course, preview as well. So Oregon, massive win over Iowa. Obviously, Dalton, a lot of Iowa fans are not very happy right now. And we got a Maryland fan in the chat, D. Souter 324, that's just going through it right now.
That's tough. Both of those. It was a tough day for both.
Listen, as a Penn State fan, I'm with you.
When you lose a lot of those close games like this, like Maryland has had recently, like Penn State had yesterday, we're going to get into. You lose a lot of those close games repeatedly, it can be really, really frustrating. I get it. You get to this time of year where it's just like, man, certain teams, you list them off and you just go, man, they can't catch a break. I get it.
Listen, use our chat as like a therapy session. We're here for you. All right, we're here for you. I'm a Penn State fan. All right, I've been through a lot this year. I'm here for you.
Listen, I'm a Jets fan.
Dalton's a Jets fan.
I get it. I absolutely.
Have you checked out Stock Exchange, their episode this week? Fix Your Franchise for the Jets.
I got to go in and watch it, but I'm sure with the
they did a good job.
With it, I'm sure they did.
Pretty
well,
sure,
Connor knows them better than anybody.
He went on. Trevor just let him cook in that entire episode.
As he should.
Like, listen, Connor, you just have the floor. Just go on whatever.
I'm sure.
Your dissertation on the Jets.
I'm sure he would expect it the other way too if it was the Bucks, but the Bucks don't need fixing.
By the way, NFL Stock Exchange, a podcast here, PFF, the best draft podcast there is on the planet. They do a series called Fix Your Franchise for any NFL franchise that's struggling. I believe they've done it for 4 years, and I believe they've done the Jets every single one of them.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
It's like they gave them the blueprint to fix them, and then they don't do it, and it's like, all right, well, here next year, here's the blueprint again. They don't do it.
Just it's just the blueprint keeps changing, and maybe they'll figure it out eventually.
Maybe. All right, let's get to another big game, the biggest game of the week, I would argue. Matchup between two top 10 teams in the Big 12, the biggest game of the year in the Big 12. Number 8, Texas Tech left no doubts on who the favorite is to win that conference right now with a commanding 29-7 victory over BYU, handing the Cougars their first loss of the season. Let's go over the highest graded players, starting off with the Texas Tech Red Raiders. No surprise here. David Bailey, he has been unreal this year. One of the best defensive players in college football, 88.7, and his teammate, Jacob Rodriguez, who has also been one of the best defensive players in college football with an 81.4 grade. Brendan Jordan, 76.6 as safety. Another edge rusher who's had an All-American year. And Romello Height, 75.3. Running back Cameron Dickey, 72.7. And Baron Morton with only a 53.8 grade in the win for Texas Tech. Let's go over to BYU with their highest grade players. Highest grade player was Jack Kelly, who's all over the field in this one with a 73.9 PFF grade. Center, Bruce Mitchell, 72.5. Cornerback, Evan Johnson, 71.7. Safety, Raider DeMooney, 70.2. Another safety here in Tanner Wall, 69.3. And Bear Bachmeier with only a 52.3 grade for the true freshman in the loss. Dalton, what told the story in this game?
Just another ridiculous defensive effort from Texas Tech. To me, this game really is not an indictment on BYU in any way. I think they're going to be able to bounce back. And actually, I thought for most of the day, BYU's defense played well. They just ran out of gas. This game was really the same game that we watched when Texas Tech went in and just shut down Utah's offense. And I think at this point, when you look at this Texas Tech team, outside of a half dozen plays, like miracle plays that Sam Leavitt made against them in that loss to Arizona State, plus their offense struggled in that game, this defense is not just good. It's not just very good. This is one of the few defenses in the country that can hang with the big boys. When you talk about if they had to play even an Ohio State, they would stand a chance. In Indiana and A&M and Alabama, they would stand a chance on defense. I mean, I think my favorite stat right now, as much as anything in this game, which I'll get into, Ruben Bain by a sliver is still the highest graded defensive player in the country. The next three are David Bailey, Jacob Rodriguez, Romello Height.
Wow.
The entire country. They're the second, third, and fourth highest graded players on defense in the entire country, just barely behind Ruben Bain from Miami. I mean, just what they're doing with this defense, it's that unit alone almost makes them the best team in the Big 12.
Yeah.
I mean, because we've seen it against Utah, we've seen it against everybody, and even Arizona State didn't grade all that highly. It's just that Sam Leavitt hit a handful of home runs, and it is what it is. He can do that, and he's not even healthy anymore. So if they had to play him again, A, I'd pick Texas Tech anyway, and B, wouldn't even matter because it's going to be Jeff Sims. I mean, my stat in just this game, BYU, one explosive run for 12 yards. It was their second play of the game. The first carry of the game went for 12 yards. They did not have another
explosive run is 10-plus yards, so barely an explosive run, too.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you just look at what they did. You shut down this BYU run game only 16 yards before contact, and this BYU offensive line is outstanding. They've been playing great football all year, only 4 first downs on the ground. What does that lead to? Even though Bear Bachmeier dropped back and threw the football well against Iowa State, really carried them to that one, this is a different animal, right? When you're talking about Iowa State and Texas Tech, Bear Bachmeier only got to get into play action 7 times this entire game. BYU was out of the game plan. They were behind early. Texas Tech with the run defense. Jacob Rodriguez and those guys in that front 7 are just outstanding. I mean, there's only so many accolades we can throw this Texas Tech defense, but I think they've proven to me in an effort like this, or one against Utah, where I believe Utah was the same way, maybe only one explosive run, if any. they can play with the big guns.
Yep.
They can. The questions for me with Texas Tech in those games, if they get to play in Ohio State or in Alabama or somebody like that, is going to be their offense, I think, especially throwing the football with Baron Morton. But defensively, they can play with anybody in the country. This is a top 3 or 4 defense in the country at minimum.
I would say the only ones you can make an argument for right now is probably Ohio State and Indiana. For the other
I would agree.
Yeah.
If you had them third, I wouldn't hate it. Even if you had them higher than that, I wouldn't hate it. I mean, they are just unbelievably sound at all 3 levels. They don't miss tackles. The pass rush is, I don't even know what the answer is.
I got some numbers on that for a second.
Pass rush, there's just no answers for it, especially. There's no team in the Big 12 that has any answers for this defense. As long as they're just functional on offense like they were in this game, this is such a hard team to beat.
Texas Tech right now, a 96.7 defensive grade, best in the country. 95.4 run defense grade, best in the country. 90.9 tackling grade, third best in the country. 91.8 pass rush grade, best in the country. 93.4 coverage grade, best in the country. They have the best run defense grade, the best pass rush grade, the best coverage grade in America, and the third best tackling grade in America right now. This defense is unbelievable.
They've only given up more than 20 points once, and that was that Arizona State game. And again, that was just Sam Leavitt making some hero plays that very few other quarterbacks can make. But, I mean, you look at a game, you look at just what they're doing. I mean, BYU, 7 points. Houston, who has been rolling this year, 11 points in that game. They held Utah to 10. I mean, just shut them down completely. This team is so much more physical than any other one in the Big 12. That's where it starts first and foremost for me. And you look at Texas Tech right now, their last 2 games against UCF and West Virginia, fully expect them to win those. And then you've got that second place race in the Big 12 that's going to get really interesting because the stakes for that BYU-Cincinnati game in a couple weeks are going to be extremely high. And you still have Houston and somehow Arizona State still sticking around with only 2 losses too. But, I mean, Texas Tech is the clear favorite in this conference. They had one slip up with Will Hammond in there against Arizona State, but there's no reason they should lose either of these next 2 games. And to be honest with you, it's starting to look like there's no reason they should lose the Big 12 title.
Yeah. My stat to tell the story in this one is another crazy Texas Tech defensive stat is BYU had 9 plays total in Texas Tech territory, and 6 of those 9 plays came in the fourth quarter when the game was essentially over too. So an incredible job by Texas Tech's defense, never even letting BYU cross midfield really in this one. 0.6 rushing yards before contact per carry for BYU yesterday. Texas Tech's defensive line, 78% pass rush win rate. 78% against BYU. Against an offensive line for BYU, by the way, that has been the best part of BYU's team this year. An offensive line that was 7th in the country in offensive line grade going into the week. And Texas Tech's defensive line still annihilated them in this one. The clear-cut best team in the Big 12 right now, like Dalton said, and also a team that seems poised to potentially make a deep run in the playoff.
2 other guys I want to credit just to get on Texas Tech's offensive side here. I mean, you know, we were a little worried about this run game preseason when Quentin Joyner got hurt, the transfer running back from USC. But the job every single week that one or both of Jacoby Williams and Cameron Dickey do in this run game, and even both of them adding to the receiving game combined for 56 receiving yards as well. But you look at these 2 guys, and in a physical defensive game like this, the way that they took over in the run game, especially just like in the Utah game as BYU started to gas out late, but combining 36 carries for 198 yards, 14 missed tackles between the 2 of them. I mean, that's really where this team is centered. They're more physical. They run the football. They play defense. And if they get enough complimentary passing out of Baron Morton, then so be it. Caleb Douglas, obviously, with the great touchdown catch in the back of the end zone there, too. So I think this team knows their identity. The defense is first and foremost, the run game with these 2 backs, and then they find the rest in the passing game. They're outstanding, man, and they've got an inside track to the playoff and the Big 12 title right now.
Who's your most impressive player from this game?
Oh, you already know. I do this every week. I do it every week. I think one week I pick Cameron Dickey, but every other Texas Tech game, it's Jacob Rodriguez over and over and over. He just constantly makes plays. He's the highest graded linebacker in college football, 83.9 coverage grade with the interception, had a fumble recovery at the end of the game. 13 tackles, 6 total stops, 93 point. I mean, he's the only player graded higher. Rodriguez has a 93.5 overall grade this year. The only player graded higher in the country is Reuben Bain Jr. This should be, to me, I know there's some other good ones out there. I listen, Arvell Reese is great. My guy Kingston Viliamuasa from Notre Dame, he was really good again last night in Notre Dame's blowout win over Navy. But to me, this should be maybe the easiest award to give out this season, Jacob Rodriguez should win the Butkus without question. He's just been unbelievable stuff in the stat sheet. The grades say it all. There's never a down week with him. There's just not a down week. He understands. His instincts in the run game are outstanding. He's always around the football. He's turning the football over. Just an unbelievable year from an unbelievable player.
Yeah, he should win the Butkus Award right now, and he should win the Burlsworth Trophy as the best former walk-on.
I would agree with that as well, yeah.
He is unbelievable. His story, man, is so cool. So he started his career at Virginia as a quarterback at Virginia, by the way, transferred to Texas Tech, walked on to the Texas Tech football team. He actually slept on his brother's floor to make ends meet and took out loans, too, for his tuition and books, too. So then obviously gets a scholarship at Texas Tech, and now all of a sudden is, I would say right now, the best linebacker in college football. I know Arvell Reese has been unbelievable for Ohio State this year, but I would agree with you that Jacob Rodriguez should win the award, the Butkus Award right now for the best linebacker in college football. And Dalton, I don't know if you heard on the broadcast yesterday, but a lot of people were agreeing with you that Heisman Trophy love for Jacob Rodriguez.
Hey,
right now.
I mean, look, it's when you have a guy playing like that, I'm not saying he should win it because we've got quite a class of quarterbacks, but you know what? He keeps playing like this through his last 2 games, and the number, if he ends up as the highest graded defensive player in the country, man, I'd really think about at least sending him in that top 4.
Manti Te'o was a finalist that one year at Notre Dame.
This kid, it's been every single week with him. I mean, you just can't even. I want to even see. I'm going to check right now. What was his lowest grade of the season in any game? Because I'm sure it's still like, oh, okay, that's good enough, right? Let me look at this real quick. It's lowest grade of the year against Kansas. He had a 57. He had one other game at a 71. Every other game has been above 80.
That's crazy.
They've played 10 games, and 8 of them he's graded above an 80. That's just silly what Rodriguez has done every single. And even in that Kansas,
80 is a great grade.
Even in that Kansas game, couple mistakes in coverage. He had 13 tackles. He had a sack in that. I mean, just the motor never shuts off with him any week. It's unreal.
So if he doesn't make it to New York for the Heisman ceremony, his teammate on defense, David Bailey, also has a case. That's my most impressive part of this game too. David Bailey was unreal against BYU in this one. The 86.8 pass rush grade, 38% pass rush win rate, 8 pressures, and 3 quarterback hits. Also had 2 run defense stops and a tackle for loss. 66 pressures this year. Easily the most in college football. Like Dalton said, the 3 best edge rushers in America. Reuben Bain Jr. from Miami, and then you got David Bailey and Romello Height, both from Texas Tech. I would say all 3 of those guys should be first-round picks in the NFL draft. I don't know if you saw the article. I got to find who wrote the article. I want to give him credit. But the David Bailey article about how he's going to go to UCLA, Dalton, originally. And Texas Tech came in with a Godfather NIL offer. And he ended up going to Texas Tech instead after transferring from Stanford. And Texas Tech was like, hey, man, listen, man, that's money well spent. I don't care how much it costs. This guy has been an unreal edge rusher for Texas Tech. He was the best pass rusher, or one of the best pass rushers in the country at Stanford, and he has been that and more for Texas Tech this year.
Absolutely. And when you consider, okay, you want to try to chip and double Bailey, then you still have Romello Height on the other side. I mean, he's
Lee Hunter, too.
Leading the nation, and Hunter was outstanding in this game as well with 7 pressures. Leading the nation in pressures, leading the nation in sacks, leading the nation in quarterback hits, 6th in pass rush win rate. I mean, it's not just volume or efficiency. It is both. He's been outstanding. And don't forget, too, a pass breakup dropping into coverage in this game as well early on. So, I mean, no, an unreal year for an unreal defense. There's so many guys on this defense playing well. And at some point, we're going to have to go through all of them because it's more than even just these 2 or 3 guys. The entire unit is playing outstanding football. And
he's not as dominant of a run defender as Reuben Bain or even his teammate Romello Height, but I want to give him credit, too, because at Stanford, he was really an unreal pass rusher, but not a very good run defender. He's become like more than a serviceable run defender this year at Texas Tech, too.
Absolutely. So, I'll take a 74 run defense grade from him. If you're going to give me that level of pass rush, I'll take a 74. Sure, that's every bit of solid, every bit of good enough starting caliber, whatever you want to call it. An improvement from last year when it was a 59. When you go, all right, I'm a little nervous about him on early downs, but no, he's just outstanding. I mean, we're going to keep waxing poetic about this Texas Tech defense. We'll see them in the Big 12 title game and obviously have that preview the next 2 weeks against West Virginia and UCF. I fully expect them to take care of business here. They're just better than those 2 teams. But, I mean, what a performance we're getting on defense from this team. And even for as good as we thought this would be, especially this defensive line preseason, we didn't think it'd be this. This is a legitimate
I had them top 3
defense in the country.
I would say this is the best defensive line in America. Say so.
Right. I mean, Miami's probably the only other one with an argument.
I threw in Texas Tech preseason at number 3 in that ranking, and they're number 1 right now. I would say they are. Even without Skylar Howard, who is unreal for
and you may get him back in time for the playoff.
Which is that's crazy.
It's insane.
Real quick on BYU, because we have a question in the chat from Charles Todd Barnum. 82-60. Does BYU make the playoffs with 2 losses? What I would say to that is if they're 10-2 and don't make the Big 12 title game, they're not getting in. If they go 11-1, they beat Cincinnati, and then if they lose again to Texas Tech, it'd be more of a conversation for me at 11-2.
Yeah, I would agree with that. At a straight up 10-2, they need to beat Cincinnati. First of all, they need to beat TCU this week. Not easy, right? Solid team. They need to beat Cincinnati and get into the Big 12 title game. Then you have that conversation. Then it's almost like the SMU thing last year where are they getting blown out again? Is it going to look a little bit better? I mean, look, BYU's really good. You've got, you got the win over Utah. The early schedule wasn't blazing. It wasn't great. So you're going to look at, when you look at strength of schedule, it's not great. Iowa State's been average this year. Arizona's been pretty average. So the problem is there's not a ton of big wins in BYU's schedule. At least going to the Big 12 title game at 11-1 will be a requirement for that.
We're going to get to the playoff bracket later on in the show. Spoiler right now, BYU is still in my bracket.
Yeah, no, this loss alone should not take them out of that.
Yeah.
They shouldn't move down below maybe number 10, somewhere in there. They should still
be.
They
got them 9, I think.
I mean, this game was so much more about Texas Tech than BYU. BYU has every bit the chance. They've got TCU. The Cincinnati game right here in Cincinnati at Nippert Stadium is going to be the other game of the year in the Big 12 because that most likely decides second place when you look at if the other two, if they take care of business, obviously, and then UCF to finish out the year. But no, I mean, BYU, they just have to bounce back, and I think they should be able to do that.
I mean, Utah right now is number 13 in the country, and BYU beat them.
Yeah.
And they have 2 losses. So
yes. I mean,
if Utah is in the conversation for playoff at 10-2 potentially, BYU absolutely should be at 11-1.
And that's the thing is I would make the case for Utah that they're going to have to find a way to win the Big 12.
Yeah.
And that's going to require.
I agree. I don't think they're going to get
that is going to require some. They're going to need Cincinnati to win and then lose a different. You're going to get into tiebreakers. And Houston still only has 2 losses. They pulled a close one out against UCF, so they're not dead yet either. But no, looking forward to that BYU Cincinnati game in a couple weeks because that's going to be huge.
To answer your question though, if they lose Cincinnati, probably not at 10-2. If they go 11-1. And then lose to Texas Tech again, it would be more of a conversation. And probably, I would argue they should get in. I don't know if the committee will do that, but I would argue at 11-2, they probably should get in if they lose again in the Big 12 title game, for example. All right, next game that we have, another game between ranked teams. Actually, only other game between ranked teams that we had this week. And Texas A&M ran away with this one with a 38-17 final score over number 22, Missouri. Let's go over the highest graded players, starting off with the Texas A&M Aggies. Their highest graded player was cornerback Will Lee III, the blanket, 75.5. Linebacker Damian Sanford, 69.6. Marcus Ratcliffe, another safety, with another 69.6 grade. Cassius Howell, who's been unreal for them at edge rusher this year, had a strip sack in this game, 69.4. Casey Concepcion, who's also been unreal for A&M this year at wide receiver, 67.3. And Marcel Reed, the quarterback, with a solid 65.8 grade in the win. Let's go over to Missouri with their highest graded players in the loss. Jamal Roberts, 78.9 at running back. Donovan Olubode, the wide receiver, 78.1. Safety Marvin Burks Jr., 74.5. Chris McClellan, the D tackle, 74.2. D tackle here as well, and Sterling Webb, 73.1. And Matt Zollers, the true freshman quarterback, put in a tough spot and only a 40.7 PFF grade. Dalton, what told the story of this game?
Yeah, look, the forward pass already just kind of wasn't easy in Missouri lately, even with Bo Pribula healthy, and that was already kind of the issue. We know they can run the football. They ran the ball well in this game, like you pointed out. They probably would, and they do almost every week, right, with Ahmad Hardy and Jamal Roberts. Their defense is at least solid, especially in the front seven, but it's the quarterback problem here in Missouri with Bo Pribula out, with the true freshman Matt Zollers, again, in a tough spot. I don't think it's this is another one. I don't think it's an indictment on his future at all or anything like that. They still believe he can be their future quarterback, but to make your first career start against this Mike Elko-led team that's just red hot right now on both sides of the ball, that's a tough ask. My stat is that Zollers only completed 3 passes beyond the line of scrimmage. There's not much forward passing going on there. I mean, it is what it is. I believe he finished the game 7 for 22 overall, 3 for 15 on throws beyond the line of scrimmage, 1 for 7 on third down. You're just not going to beat this Texas A&M team if you're one-dimensional, right? We saw this with LSU and their struggles to run the football. Now it's Missouri and their struggles throwing throwing the football. This is a complete team that Texas A&M has, right? And there's times maybe where Marcel Reed wavers a little bit. Not in this game. It was pretty calm and cool and just kind of, hey, get out of here, play the fundamentals and win this football game against a team that doesn't have a functional passing game right now. So it's pretty simple to me, this one, and it's the concern I had for Missouri coming into it was just for as great as their run game is, they're too one-dimensional to function right now in big games like this.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, my stat is really the same thing. It's Missouri negative .864 EPA per pass against Texas A&M. They ran the ball well. I mentioned in the preview how Missouri's run game could give A&M issues in this game, and it did with 226 rushing yards, 7.1 yards per carry for Missouri. Not just Ahmad Hardy either. Jamal Roberts, you saw on the screen earlier, was great for Missouri in this one. But you're so one-dimensional right now, Missouri is offensively. And the worst EPA per pass figure all year for the Tigers, and it's worst since their 34-0 loss to Alabama last year, too. So it just was not anything to write home about for Missouri's passing game. Again, 32% completion rate for Matt Zollers for 77 passing yards, averaging 3.5 yards per attempt. Aggies really did not get much of a pass rush either. The secondary was just outstanding for Texas A&M, and also a true freshman quarterback, really the third-string quarterback for Missouri. Still a talented kid, right? He's a top 10 quarterback out of high school, so he has a bright future at Missouri, but this is a tough game for him to go against a top 3 team in the country and one of his first starts of his career as well. So tough game for Matt Zollers. I believe actually his first start of the career, right? Because his last game was against Vanderbilt. So yeah, first start of his career against a top 3 team is tough. And yeah, Aggies just did a great job defensively of shutting down the passing game.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this A&M team, they are just about a virtual lock for the playoff.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got South Carolina this coming week. I would fully expect them. I know Lenora Sellers is always a threat, but we've seen the struggles of South Carolina. Then an FCS game. I expect this A&M team to start 11-0, and then they go into Austin. And if you can win that one, you're going to the SEC title game with a chance to win that championship. And even if you don't and your one loss is at Texas, I'd expect this is going to be a top 6 or 7 team at the very least come college football playoff. And with that one loss, if they were to lose in Austin, then I think A&M is in just about no danger. When you talk about virtual locks right now, Ohio State, Indiana's in that mix, A&M is right there in that mix. They've basically locked up a playoff spot at this point, barring an absolute disaster of epic proportions.
Yeah. Who do you want to shout out here for most impressive?
I think not even just for this game, but his performance in recent weeks. The linebacker Damian Sanford, look, and he's under a lot of pressure with Scooby Williams been in and out of the lineup with injuries for most of this year, really, over the last 6-7 weeks. Sanford's really stepped up. In this game, he had 4 stops, 2 pressures, one of them the strip sack near the end of the first half. Look, A&M, this game was a defensive battle early. It was only 7-0, but the strip sack that Sanford had coming around on the stunt, beating the tight end in protection, and getting the ball out of Matt Zollers' hands and Dalton Brooks with the big return there, along with the big fake punt that Dalton Brooks had later in the game. But Sanford and that strip sack was big time. And I just want to throw out there, since week 6, an 83.4 PFF grade, right? And it was supposed to be coming into the year. Torian York, obviously the superstar linebacker, and Scooby Williams. But the job that Sanford has done filling in for Williams in that starting role, he may just end up keeping it, or you're going to see a lot of both him and Williams whenever Williams gets fully healthy.
Yeah, I want to shout out the self-proclaimed blanket, Will Lee III, who was exactly that against Missouri in this one with a 75 coverage grade, only 1 catch allowed on 5 targets for Lee, 1 forced incompletion, a 50.4 passer rating allowed. He's a projected 3rd-round pick right now, day 2 pick in the 2026 NFL draft, and he showed why with a really, really good performance against Missouri.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, again, you just look at this A&M defense and what they're capable of. And even look, there's times where it's not always pretty. Sometimes they're missing tackles. So they go through stretches of games where, it kind of wavers a little bit. But Mike Elko, and I just want to credit Mike Elko, too. The pulse that he has on this team and the way that he just does not allow them to let up. And he really feels like the emphasis this season is playing all 60 minutes all the way through. That's what you're seeing with Texas A&M. And it feels like, from some of the sound bites you heard after the game, too, is that they were really hurt after they got off to such a good start and then petered down the stretch last year. They're trying to finish the job here. They're trying to go 12-0. They're trying to win the SEC title and get all the way to a national championship game. They really have those types of aspirations, and they're playing 60. They played 60 minutes of complete football in this game.
Yeah, they'd never even made it to an SEC title game since they joined the conference like a decade ago, right? So it's been a long time for them, and now they seem poised to at least make it to the SEC title game, if not a lot more for the Aggies this year. Great win for them over Missouri, 38-17. Let's get to a massive game that we had between Indiana and Penn State. Penn State almost pulled it out, but an incredible drive by Fernando Mendoza, one of the top Heisman candidates right now. Indiana escaped with a 27-24 victory. Indiana moves to 10-0 in back-to-back seasons, and also 10-0 for the second time ever in program history. Let's go over the highest graded players, starting off with the second-ranked Indiana Hoosiers. Highest graded player was actually the quarterback, Fernando Mendoza, 86.1 grade in the win. Charlie Becker, though, who was awesome at wide receiver for them in place of Elijah Surratt, who missed the game with an injury, 79.2 grade. Linebacker Elijah Hardy, 76.5. Tyreek Tucker, the D tackle, with a 75.4 grade. Tight end here in Riley Nowakowski with a 74.1. Mikael Kamara, 72.7. Let's go over to Penn State with their highest graded players in the loss. Highest graded player was the safety King Mack, 85.1. Cornerback Zion Tracy, 75.2. Zariah Fisher, the edge rusher, 74.5. Trevor Pena, the wide receiver, 72.3. D tackle Zane Durant, 70.8. And Ethan Grunkmeyer with a very commendable 71 grade in the loss for the redshirt freshman backup quarterback, or original backup quarterback, now the starter for Penn State, with Drew Aller out for the season. Dalton, what told the story in this game for you?
First of all, credit to your Penn State Nittany Lions for the heart they showed in this game, and behind and then coming back. The defense playing well. The defensive line I thought was really good. And Ethan Grunkmeyer really keeping it cool under pressure. I thought he was really good for most of the day, especially the second half. But obviously, as everybody and their mother who watched this game knows, the story is Fernando Mendoza. Under pressure in multiple different ways. When he was under pressure in the pocket, 7 of 13, 86 yards, plus that game-winning touchdown, and 85.5 passing grade with 3 big-time throws under pressure. I think if there's a word to describe Fernando Mendoza more than anything else, yes, you have, he's accurate and he can win from the pocket. He can win a little outside the pocket at a rushing TD in this game as well, but I think it's toughness. That's got to be the word for him, especially in this game alone with the comeback and having to put together that final drive with no timeouts on the board. And then just in general, the number of throws he makes while he's getting hit in the pocket. And you talk about staring down the barrel. Mendoza stares down the barrel constantly. And then you look at just some other things in this game. Penn State blitzed him 55% of the time, 86 passing grade against the blitz. Then you look at that last drive. Obviously, that's going to be, right now, that's the drive of Mendoza's career. They're calling it the drive of Indiana's season. Now, I don't think they would have been knocked out of the playoff had they lost that.
No,
but
absolutely not.
Especially still having the tiebreaker over Oregon. They still would have made the Big 12 or the Big 10 title game, but you look at that drive and what it symbolizes for this team, and to be able to go on the road in a tough environment. Hell, I mean, to be honest, Max, that drive was so good, it got a smile out of Curt Cignetti, which is actually the craziest thing that I saw out of this entire setting here in Happy Valley, is we actually got a smile out of Curt Cignetti after the game, because you know me, every Saturday I say it, my favorite thing is no matter what's going on, they could be up 55-0, and when they pan the camera to Curt Cignetti, he just looks pissed off about something.
It's like Nick Saban. Remember Nick Saban when he was up by, I think, like 28 in the national title game, I guess against Notre Dame, I think, with like 2 minutes left, and he was still screaming at his players.
Well, and wasn't A.J. McCarron doing the same thing, right?
Yeah, it was like there was like 2 minutes left. You're up by 28 in the national title game, and Nick Saban's still pissed off. This
game was so wild. We got a grin out of Curt Cignetti. But when you look at that last drive, right, Mendoza, look, it was up and down throughout the day. The interception to King Mack was bad earlier in the fourth quarter. 71.9 passing grade before that last drive. 92.7 on that last drive. Just outstanding stuff. Balls down the seams. How about the day Charlie Becker had Omar Cooper with what they're calling the catch of the year also, and I understand that. How in
Not
the
for
world?
me.
Not for you, of course, but it's been a tough year for you, certainly for both of your teams. But I mean, just sometimes, and this is not the only game of the weekend where this happened. We got a couple more coming to talk about a performance like this. But sometimes, man, you're on the road, you're playing a talented team that maybe hasn't had a great year, obviously, and your quarterback just has to get you through it. Mendoza did that to a T, especially on that last drive.
Yeah, Walt, even in the chat saying, gotta say Mendoza's tough, man. Tough as nails.
Tough. I think toughness. Sometimes if you're just going to embody certain guys in one word, I do think toughness is that, right? When you think about how that was learned.
And he was taking some shots from Penn State all throughout the game.
Well, think about how that was learned even last year, because remember Cal did they have the lowest graded O-line in the Power 5 last year?
He was getting killed back there.
Cal's offensive line last year was so bad, and he found a way to still at times make throws. You can remember at the end of the Miami game, and I think he had to leave that game with a concussion and all. I mean, the toughness of this guy and the learned nature of moments like that, when, again, Penn State's blitzing him. At the end of the game, Penn State with just all three of those plays, all right, we're going 0.
Yeah.
We're going to hit you, and if you make the throws through the hits, then fine. And he absolutely did it. I mean, unbelievable stuff from Mendoza, especially at the end of this game. And toughness is the word. And that sort of toughness he brings to Indiana. So without, let's say it too, and we're going to get into the other guy here that factors it, without Elijah Surratt.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, Surratt really carried him through the Iowa game when it got tough like this, right? Mendoza was the one just making the throws. And again, Becker with great catches, Omar Cooper with the one at the end. Just a great day for Indiana football. And like you mentioned, getting their 10th win 2 years in a row when they'd never done it before.
Yeah, it's crazy. Mendoza, like I said, he was taking some huge hits from Penn State's D-line all throughout the game, not even on the last drive of the game. All throughout the game, he's taking some big shots, and he still delivered in the clutch for Indiana. My stat is really Indiana, 92.7 offensive grade on that 2-minute drive to win the game. Only a 66.8 offensive grade the whole rest of the game, right? So Indiana just found it in the clutch right there. Mendoza at 91.4 passing grade in that 2-minute drill with 2 big-time throws and no turnover-worthy plays. In the biggest drive of the year for Indiana, Mendoza and Indiana's offense stepped it up with a 10-play, 80-yard touchdown drive in only a minute and 15 seconds. Like you said, Dalton, even if they lost to Penn State, they would still be around, I don't know, number 5 or number 6 probably in college football. They'd be above Oregon because they beat Oregon. And it wouldn't really, they still would have made the Big Ten title game if they beat Ohio State, whatever. This game was so important, I think, to Indiana, and just like the Iowa game was too. Like, listen, we can win these ball games. We don't have to just beat everyone, by 50 points every single week. If we get into a fist fight, we can win those fist fights. I think that is so massive, not only for where they stand right now in the rankings, but also so massive for their confidence when they go into the playoff and play some of the best teams in the country. They can win fist fights as well. They don't have to blow everyone out of the water. They can win these kinds of games too. I think this is huge for the confidence of that football team.
The defense wavered a bit in this game late, especially in the second half. I mean, you look at the run game struggling, less than 4 yards per design carry. Mendoza again with the big scramble on the touchdown early in the game too. So I think for me, it's a big one where last year it felt like eventually when you got to the Ohio State game and the Notre Dame game, and Curtis Rourke had an outstanding season. He was unbelievable last year. But you got to those 2 games and you go, he couldn't carry us through it against those types of defenses. And look, Penn State still is a really talented defense.
Yeah.
So there's NFL players all over this defense. We're going to see it. It's another step in the right direction. Now, if Mendoza goes and does it against Ohio State, oh boy, I mean, now you're really talking about Indiana might be the favorite at that point for the national title. But let's see it again. Then when we get this stage, only gets bigger from here. But this was a huge win for them to get in the fourth quarter here.
Listen, I think we should talk about this right now because I think this has been the talk of Twitter all over today is who should win the Heisman Trophy right now. And listen, I am victim to this too, and I actually want to apologize because I was saying should be the Heisman favorite, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter because whoever wins that Big Ten title game is going to win the Heisman Trophy. And I would argue whoever wins the Big Ten title game should win the Heisman Trophy. If Fernando Mendoza beats Ohio State, he probably should win the Heisman. So I did it on Twitter. I apologize for going so crazy with Julian saying, but really, I know the argument, and I know people have to argue right now about it. It'll all get settled in December. It'll all get settled in that game. Whoever wins that game will win the Heisman Trophy right now. So I know all the arguments on Twitter right now. We'll get to our Heisman segment later on in the show where we reveal who we think should win the Heisman as of right now. But it doesn't matter as of right now because in December, in a few weeks, when these two play each other, whoever wins that game is going to win the Heisman.
Absolutely. I mean, that's barring
Ty Simpson just going nuclear these next few weeks, which is possible.
There's a couple other guys, too, that are, I would say, in that mix when you look at some of the numbers, too. But I think barring actually, Ohio State's still got to beat Michigan this time.
Yeah.
Because, look, Michigan's still sitting there with 1 conference loss, and they beat Ohio State. All of a sudden, you're going to get Indiana and Michigan. That's a real scenario, right?
That is true.
Look, Ohio State still has to beat Michigan, which is a task, obviously. I do think that's the most likely scenario. Is that no matter what you think after week 10, week 11, any next week 12 doesn't matter. It's probably going to come down to that game.
Yeah.
And the winner of the Heisman moment is just going to be all right. Who came out and won the Big Ten? If they both get there undefeated, it's going to be 1-2. And honestly, the loser of that game should not even drop out of the top 4 at that point. They should still get the bye week going into the playoff. But boy, what an epic Big Ten title game we could have between these two teams and these two quarterbacks.
Yeah, Kevin Chow was saying regardless of who wins the game, it also depends on how they play in the game. Sure, I agree with that. But also, these two are close enough in grades and all these stats this year. It's basically who wins that game is going to win the Heisman. It's going to come down to that. So, yes, the Heisman talk is really hot in the streets right now on Twitter, but It's all going to get settled in a few weeks in December at that Big Ten title game. Really get settled for throughout the country as well. Dalton, who are going to shout out here in this one?
I mean, how about Charlie Becker? Look, we just mentioned that you didn't have Elijah Surratt out there, right? And you need somebody to step up. How about the sophomore wide receiver who's really been a core special teamer for this Indiana team, coming out with 7 catches, 118 yards, 3 for 3 uncontested targets, 5 first downs, 82 receiving grade. You need somebody to step up when your number one receiver is out. Obviously, Cooper with the big final catch, but I think the play that needs to not get forgotten here. How about the catch before the catch with Charlie Becker on the sideline, one-on-one with that contested catch that got him inside the 10-yard line? Just, you need somebody sometimes that just comes out of absolutely nowhere to step up and have a huge game. That's what Becker did in this one. And all of a sudden you think about Surratt coming back, but tell you what, with his size and the way he's making these contested catches, Becker's got to play more, regardless of whether Surratt's on the field or not. Unbelievable performance out of nowhere. You talk about clutch. This guy, again, with 7 career catches coming into the game, he had 7 in this game for 118. I mean, as if Indiana needed any more weapons. And again, with the run game not going all that well for most of the day for Indiana, just great stuff. Charlie Becker, you talk about an unsung hero stepping up all of a sudden. That was just a great performance.
Yeah, so most impressive was probably Fernando Mendoza, because we talked about him and we'll see already. I'll shout out Kursangnetty, of course, the head coach for Indiana. Just, it's unreal, man. I know we said it time and time again at Indiana, but this is a program that was quite literally one of the worst programs in college football when he took over.
By the numbers, the worst.
By numbers, the worst. By the way, did you see that their win over Penn State, they have now passed Northwestern in the all-time wins category. So now they're the second fewest wins in Power 4 history.
Working their way up.
Dude, listen, if Cignetti's there for another 15 years, they'll work their way up a lot higher on that list too. But back-to-back 10-win years for Indiana now. It's their first 2 10-win years in program history. They did not have a single 10-win year in the 125 seasons before Kursangnetty took over. Now he's gone 2 for 2 in 10-win seasons. His first win ever at Penn State for Indiana as a program. I love the answer he gave the sideline reporter, Dalton. We're like, hey, Indiana's never won at Penn State. And he goes, this team has never played at Penn State before. And they did, and they won this game. His quarterback is now one of the favorites to win the Heisman Trophy. Indiana should finish 12-0 for the first time ever, setting up possibly the biggest Big Ten championship game of all time in number 1 Ohio State versus number 2 Indiana. And how about Indiana, man? Wins at Oregon, at Iowa, and at Penn State. That's unreal for Indiana football.
Don't cry strength of schedule this time.
Yeah.
Nope. Not. Well, I know there was all
those road games. Those are 3 tough environments to win at, and they won all 3 of them.
There was all that talk last year about strength of schedule. We're not doing that this time.
Yeah, absolutely not.
No, this is legitimately one of. I mean, right now, I have no issue calling them the second best team in the country where they're ranked right now.
Absolutely not. With that. Yeah, no problem with that either. Big win for Indiana, coming back and beating Penn State 27-24. All right, let's get to the next game. Number 4, Alabama beating LSU 20-9. LSU, how about this stat, Dalton? We'll get to this in later on. 25 or fewer points in every game this year against an FBS opponent. The only other schools who have scored 25 or fewer points in every game against an FBS opponent are UMass, Nevada, and Northern Illinois. Those 3 and LSU are the only offenses in the country that have scored 25 or fewer in every game against an FBS team.
Yeah, that's
tough.
That says it all. More than anything for just this one game, that says it all. And about where this LSU team is at offensively, because they've really kind of unbeknownst to us, because we were so focused on how great their defense was in their early wins, but no, their offense, this is how they've looked all year. It's every single week with them. Let's
get to the grades right now for Alabama. First off, their highest graded player was linebacker Nakai Hill-Green, 92.3 grade for the transfer linebacker for Alabama, the journeyman linebacker. I'll talk about him later on in the show. Safety Bray Hubbard with a really good 86.6 PFF grade. Edge rushers Yanze Pierre, who's really emerged for Alabama in that pass rush, 83.2. Linebacker Deontay Lawson, 82.1. Quarterback Dejon Lee Jr., 74.8. And Ty Simpson, who's also in the Heisman race right now with a really good 79.2 grade against LSU. Let's go over to LSU now with their highest grade players in the lost. West Weeks, not Whit Weeks, who's still hurt with an injury, but his brother West Weeks with a really good 80.5 PFF grade. Another linebacker here, and Harold Perkins Jr. with an 80 grade. Jamari Butler, the edge rusher, 71.2. Mansour Delane, the star corner for LSU, 66 grade. Jack Pyburn, 65.6 at edge rusher, and Garrett Nussmeier, who got benched in this game for Michael Van Buren Jr. Nussmeier only a 53 grade in the loss. Dalton, what told the story in this game?
Look, the story, I mean, obviously all eyes are always on Ty Simpson. He had another solid game. A couple misses in the second half, the strip sack, LSU hung around, it felt like, for longer than you feel like they should have, considering the way their offense was playing. But the story is this Alabama defense. When you look at the way they've been playing, and in past weeks there's been times where they've taken some punches and then come back with timely turnovers. They were really just outstanding. I mean, you don't give up a touchdown in this game to an LSU offense that obviously is struggling, but still is a threat with the guys they have on the outside, and Garrett Nussmeier and apparently Michael Van Buren at quarterback. But Alabama, 88.8 team defensive grade, their highest against a Power 4 opponent in more than 3 years. Okay, so you think about all those years we had Nick Saban and this Alabama defense, and you just could never score on them. Max is starting to really find a rhythm here. A 90.6 run defense grade, 83 rushing yards allowed, 37 of them on the one explosive run from Harlem Berry, 90.6 coverage grade as well, one explosive pass allowed in the first half of this game. And Garrett Nussmeier, I believe his average depth of target was less than 3 yards. Yep. Wasn't 2.9 yards? I mean, yes, it was Nussmeier, and look, the LSU, their inability to run the football on their offensive line is well documented. We've done that a million times already. But also this Alabama defense, I mean, this now looks like, especially with Yonsei Pierre emerging as another pass rusher alongside LT Overton, this looks like the top 5 defense we were expecting to see coming into the season with talent at all 3 levels. Hill Green was great. Deontay Lawson's on an absolute burner right now, several weeks in a row. You've got Bray Hubbard, Keon Sabb at safety. They forced 3 fumbles in this game. Pierre with the 2 sacks. I mean, just above all else, I think, especially it shows in the score, a defensive clinic put on by Alabama. And I think if they continue to play defense like this and just complement it with the offense, it's not always pretty on offense. There's moments every game where it looks outstanding, and then there's other times where you go, they could run the football a little better. Simpson missed a few throws in the second half, but this defense is a real problem, especially when you look at the way they can cover on the back end in the secondary.
Yeah, my stat is Garrett Nussmeier from a clean pocket in this one. As I mentioned in the preview, how LSU's offensive line against Alabama's pass rush was a matchup of weakness on weakness. And it's important to know that because Garrett Nussmeier is really good from a clean pocket overall this season. He entered the week with a 85.6 passing grade, one kept clean. LSU's offensive line delivered him. A lot of clean pockets in this one. A 90.4 pass blocking grade for LSU. That's their best in the game since 2022, and it's their best pass blocking grade in a game against a Power 4 opponent ever in PFF college history. So LSU's offensive line delivered against Alabama, only allowed 3 pressures total in this one. Now, of course, a lot of it was Garrett Nussmeier threw 12 screens in this game with a 2.9 yard average at the target. So there were a lot of times where he got rid of the football quickly in this game. But still, LSU's offensive line performed more than admirably against Alabama. But LSU still only scored 9 points because Garrett Nussmeier could not win from those clean pockets. A 62 passing grade from clean pocket. Second worst for him all year, second worst for him ever, only ahead of the Alabama loss last year for Garrett Nussmeier. 0 big-time throws, 1 turnover-worthy play. He had a really, really bad sack where he just completely spun into Yonsei Pierre later on in the game. He got benched for Michael Van Buren Jr., and you could see why, because Van Buren at least provided a little bit of a jolt to that LSU offense in this one. Alabama's secondary was unbelievable, even without much of a pass rush to speak of, with a 90.6 coverage grade overall for Alabama. They completely locked up LSU's receivers, but Garrett Nussmeier just struggled to win from a clean pocket, even though he had nothing but clean pockets to work from.
I think you mentioned it with we've talked about them losing four NFL players on that offensive line. To me, I know Trey'Dez Green's been really good lately as the big 6'7" tight end who can go up and get the jump balls and all of that. But this team, it feels like this year, is just you've never known what the objectives are. in this offense, right? They don't run the football consistently well. Alabama just shut them down in the run game outside of one big run from Harlem Berry. And in the passing game, it now just feels like even though they did play well in pass protection, it feels like there's so little trust in this offensive line. When you talk about 11 of Nussmeier's 18 completions were behind the line of scrimmage.
It's crazy.
There's just no trust there at all. With Nussmeier, with the receivers, there's not many guys winning one-on-one against a really good secondary. So, I mean, this LSU offense, it sunk them. And the vibes really could not be lower right now in Baton Rouge. And look, Alabama gets another big win. Right? I mean, now you're talking about another huge game coming next week against. It's not like it gets any easier. They get Oklahoma next week. And then, of course, the Iron Bowl at the end of the year. But Alabama, I think, another big win on under their belt, and even one where they didn't play their best football. I think Kalen DeBoer is going to be a little annoyed with how they played in the second half on offense. But this defense now, the way that they're playing and the balance that Alabama has to beat you in multiple ways, I think it is a lot like even we were talking about with Texas A&M earlier, and that's why they're two of the top 4 teams in the country.
Yeah. So who do you want to shout out in the Alabama defense in this one?
You know, let's give credit. I know we've talked about him before in a couple other games, but you remember when Bray Hubbard was the poster child of that Florida State loss at the beginning of the year? Well, he's really turned it around, and this was one of his best games of the year. How about a 91.2 run defense grade with a forced fumble early? Alabama didn't get to recover that one, but it really made a statement, I thought, early in the game. Had a pass break up in the end zone that he could have intercepted. 4 total stops. This is somebody who brings a lot of attitude as the box safety, as the guy who's always sniffing around the line of scrimmage and can still make plays in coverage as well. The turnaround from Bray Hubbard and the perception and image of him coming out of that Florida State loss, he's been outstanding ever since then. He's been a big reason why this Alabama defense has been so good. There's a ton of names, but Bray Hubbard's been one of their best players lately.
I want to go with Nakai Hill-Green here, who has been unreal. He's known as a great run defender for Alabama, but the journeyman linebacker was outstanding in coverage for the Crimson Tide, a 92.3 coverage grade. He punched the ball out on Bauer Sharp, the tight end, and recovered it in one of the biggest plays of the game for Alabama. 2 catches allowed on 4 targets for only 3 yards. Also had a run defense stop in this one, too. He's now at his 4th school right now, and he's making an impact in the middle of that Crimson Tide defense. So Nakai Hill-Green, man, a journeyman linebacker. It's rare to get journeyman in college football, but Nakai Hill-Green is exactly that, and he's been great for Alabama yesterday.
Well, it's not as rare as it used to be. I mean, now we get him all the time, right? You think about
TJ Finley had 7 schools in 5 years.
Dylan Gabriel with 3 logos on his helmet at the Senior Bowl, right?
True,
I mean, it's certainly not news anymore when you get these guys bouncing all over the place. But Hill-Green, I mean, we talked last year about the impact he had on Colorado's defense, and he's come over and made a similar impact in just an outstanding linebacking core. When you look at him, Deontay Lawson, and Justin Jefferson, those guys have been playing great all year. Lawson, especially the last few games, has been outstanding as well. We've talked about guys, legitimate players at all 3 levels of Alabama's defense. That's what you're looking for. That's why they can play with anybody.
Yep, Alabama, massive win over LSU, 20-9 in the huge rivalry game between those two programs. All right, before we get to the other half of our review show, we're going to talk about the sponsor show that is DraftKings Pick6. This betting segment is brought to you by DraftKings Pick6. Let's pull up the Heisman odds right now, Dalton, and that's what kind of the talk of Twitter right now in college football. Julian Sayin on DraftKings Sportsbook is still the Heisman Trophy favorite right now, but just barely. He is plus 180 right now to win the Heisman Trophy on DraftKings. Fernando Mendoza is plus 185. Ty Simpson is plus 390. Marcel Reed is plus 700. Then you got Diego Pavia at plus 2,000. And then Gunnar Stockton plus 2,500. And Jeremiah Smith also at plus 2,500. Anything stands out to you? Any smart bets? Don't give away your Heisman rankings just yet, but any bets that you like there?
Well, I think again, those odds show that the obvious is the obvious when it comes to that potential Big Ten title game when you've got possibly Sayin versus Mendoza if both can get all the way there. But the 2 good values I see there, I think number 1 is Diego Pavia at 20-1. I think that feels a little long to me. You look at some of the numbers and you look at the way we're going to talk about it in a minute. He carried him through this Auburn game. If Vanderbilt goes 10-2 and they find their way into the playoff, Pavia's at least going. He's gonna go for carrying that team the way that he does week in and week out. And I think the other one you've talked about this before. Jeremiah Love at Notre Dame, man, he's just red hot right now. He finally the last month or so looks fully healthy from whatever that ankle problem was late last year. And Notre Dame's offense just continues to roll. A big win over Navy this week. Love, as always, was a big reason.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think I can't really tell you too many value plays right now because it does feel like it's going to come down to Sand versus Mendoza to win the Heisman right now. But I do like Diego Pavia. I do like Haynes King, who's 60-1 right now. Don't think either of them are going to win the Heisman Trophy, but you never know. One of them gets to New York, so maybe you could bet it right now, and maybe their odds can go up a little bit, and then you cash out and make some money.
Yeah,
that's probably the way to do
reasonable.
it.
Yeah, I mean,
do that.
There's always those plays too where you go, it might not win it, but it might get there.
Yeah, cash out on your Heisman bets.
Yeah,
unlike some people here in the studio.
Some people just they're in it for the long haul. They're really committed to it.
Definitely. All right, every yard, every sack, every interception, and every touchdown with Pick6, DraftKings' newest game. Every snap can turn into a big-time payout. This isn't just watching the game. This is playing to win. Here's how it works. Pick more or less on 2 or more player stats. The better your picks, the bigger your payout. It's that simple. Pick6 gives you more upside than any of those other pick'em sites, and it's available in most states, including Texas, California, Georgia, Missouri, and more. Go bold, go big, and start stacking wins with Pick6 from DraftKings, where every pick can pay off huge. New DraftKings customers get $50 in Pick6 credits with just a $5 entry on your first pick set. You know the game, now make it pay. Download the DraftKings Pick6 app now and use code PFF. That's code PFF. Play just $5 and get $50 in Pick6 credits. Make the call. Ride the upside in partnership with DraftKings Pick6. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 or older. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable. Pick6 credits expire in 14 days. Ends December 2nd at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. Terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos. All right. Couple ACC teams in the top 15 went down. The first one we're talking about is number 14, Virginia, losing to Wake Forest 16-9. Let's go over the highest graded players, starting off with the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. Highest grade player was their linebacker in Dylan Hazen, 90.2 grade for him. Talk about him later on in the show. Fa'ili Fa'amoe, the offensive tackle, with an 80.7 grade in the win. Melvin Siani, the other offensive tackle, with a 77.5 PFF grade. Lardarius Webb Jr., 77 at cornerback. Dallas Afalava, the D tackle, 75.8. And Robbie Ashford with a 59.8 grade in the loss. Let's go over to Virginia with their highest grade players in the loss. Sorry, Wake Forest won, obviously. Jason Prevard, the corner, 79.7. Donovan Platt, the corner, 78.8. Jason Hammond, the D tackle, 72.8. Mikhail Boley, the offensive tackle, 71.7. Trell Harris, the wide receiver, 70.6. And the backup quarterback, Daniel Kalen, because Chandler Morris went down with an injury, only a 34.2 grade for him. Dalton, what told the story in this game?
Boy, oh boy, think about it. If you're Wake Forest, man, how do you win a game when you only have 203 total yards, when you have 3.2 yards per play? You just get a lot of contributions from your defense and your special teams, and also you win the turnover battle. That was a big thing for me in this game. 3 fumbles from Virginia, 2 of them directly led to Wake Forest field goals, both of those on strip sacks of Daniel Kalen. The third one, the Jamari Taylor fumble later in the game that Dylan Hazen forced, just an unbelievable play as Virginia was driving into Wake Forest territory. Just everything went wrong for Virginia in this game offensively. The 3 fumbles, you had red zone trips that came up empty. The drive at the end that Kalen almost saved the day on came up empty. It just did not, and then obviously there's the obvious of, do they win this game with Chandler Morris the entire game? We'll never know. He only got to play 14 snaps. He took the big hit while sliding and scrambling and then left the game with what we assume is some sort of head injury or concussion-related injury. So I think when you just look at this team, they just could not afford to not have Morris against a very good defense like this. Also, we want to shout out the Carlos Hernandez punt return touchdown, which really you could argue is the signature play of this game, I think, alongside with the Hazen forced fumble. But, I mean, just an ugly defensive game this turned into, where really neither team could throw the football with any efficiency at all. And Wake Forest, with their defense and with their special teams, they just found a way to get it done in the right time. And I really think forcing those 3 fumbles, those 3 turnovers that led to 6 points and took maybe a touchdown off the board on their second to last drive for Virginia, that was really the difference in this game. And credit to Wake Forest defense for just playing an outstanding game, one of the best of the day.
Yeah, you mentioned ugly defensive game. Well, it's because there were 0 offensive touchdowns by either team in this one. The only touchdown scored all night was that 88-yard punt return by Carlos Hernandez for Wake Forest. Wake Forest wanted to win this game by making it a defensive slugfest because of how bad their offense has played this year, and they did just that against Virginia. It's the first time that Virginia did not score a touchdown in a game since their loss to Miami in 2022, 3 years ago. Again, like Dalton mentioned, 3 lost fumbles against Wake Forest. They did not have a single lost fumble entering this week, and 3 of them against Wake Forest. It just felt like when Chandler Morris went down in the second quarter with that injury, and you saw the grade right there for Daniel Kalen at quarterback, who had 2 of those 3 lost fumbles for Virginia. They just could never get anything going offensively, and credit to Wake Forest's defense that has been the best part of their team all year for getting a massive top 15 victory for them.
I mean, the run defense too, because you knew obviously Kalen, we learned on that early read option play from him, the 54-yard run, that he's a good athlete, and obviously Virginia's going to want to run the football because the passing game was basically gone without Morris, but gave up 175 yards on the ground if you're Wake Forest, but 97 of them on Virginia's 2 longest carries of the night. So you look at it from that angle, a really good night in run defense, a great night in defense altogether. And my most impressive, as a unit, I'm going to talk about this Wake Forest pass rush. It's what I talked about in the preview. It's the X factor for this team. Their coverage unit's really good. The zone coverages were outstanding again in this game. Credit to their secondary for playing well, but 74.7 pass rush grade for Wake Forest Max. They are 6-0 now when they have a pass rush grade of at least 70, right? When the 3 games when they've lost, I told you they haven't gotten to quarterbacks enough. They did it in this game. Dallas Afalava with 4 pressures and a strip sack. Newer Gatco with a strip sack in this game. Both of those led to points. I just think when you look at this Wake Forest defense, if they get a pass rush, you got a real problem on your hands because their secondary is really good. And Daniel Kalen, 26.3 passing grade under pressure in this game. A huge factor once again in big moments was that they got enough pressure when they needed it. When Wake Forest does that, they got a really good defense on their hands.
Yeah, I want to shout out Dylan Hazen, the linebacker, the redshirt senior linebacker with a career night against Virginia. 90.2 PFF grade, the highest PFF grade of his entire career. 90.9 run defense grade. He had a forced fumble, 2 run defense stops, and a tackle for a loss. 71.8 coverage grade, 2 coverage stops on only 4 targets as well. Also had a pressure on one of his 2 pass rushes too. So an all-around dominant performance for the redshirt senior linebacker. Again, his highest PFF grade of his 5-year career.
That forced fumble on Jamari Taylor was just an unbelievable play in the clutch when, again, it looked like Virginia was finally driving down, finally had some momentum to tie the game. And you look at this team now with Jake Dickert, I mean, the defensive effort that they've put together. And Dickert known as an offensive coach, right, for the work that he did at Washington State, especially the last couple of years. But this defense is carrying them right now. If they continue that into future seasons, look at Wake Forest, bowl eligible in Jake Dickert's first year as head coach with 3 games to go. I mean, you're talking about, and you really look at, you mentioned it, the offensive situation, the quarterback situation is not great. And they're 6-3. Props to them and what they're doing in Dickert's first year there, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Just a great effort to win an ugly, low-scoring game. You go on the road, I don't even care. Yeah, Chandler Morris got hurt. You go on the road playing a top 15 team, you only give up 9 points, and you force 3 turnovers the way that you did. That's unbelievable stuff right there. The entire Wake Forest defense deserves a lot of credit.
Yeah, Jake Dickert right now, like you said, has that 6-3 record right now. They were 4-8 in the 2 years before he took over that job, and it's possible they could finish 9-3. I'm looking at their schedule right now, Dalton. They play North Carolina, Delaware, at At Duke is tough, but they can win that Duke game too, the way their defense plays.
The way their defense is playing, they can beat anybody on any day. Look, we saw it. They almost upset. They were one play from upsetting Georgia Tech. I mean, Wake Forest is a team that is not to be messed with, and I'm with you. They're at least favored in those next 2 games.
Absolutely, yeah. And they went 8-5 in 2022 and 11-3 in 2021. So they're going 9-3 would be their best year in 4 years. And Jake Dickert's first year at that program. It's a great job by him at that program in his first year as head coach. We've had a lot of great head coaches this year, so he probably won't get much love for any national awards, but he has done a terrific job at Wake Forest. And for back-to-back 4-8 years at that program, having a 6-3 record so far this year and a top 15 victory over Virginia as well. Just an amazing job by him in Wake Forest right now. Virginia Dalton is still currently in second place in the ACC title race right now at 5-1 in the conference and 8-2 overall, but it's getting dicey right now for the Cavaliers, for sure.
What's happened now with this and this next game we're going to talk about with Cal beating Louisville is that the rankings, the initial rankings certainly felt like the ACC was going to be a one-bid league. I think the only team left that would have any sort of at-large shot is Georgia Tech.
If they beat Georgia.
If they beat Georgia and they're 11-1, and if they were to lose the ACC title game.
You got Georgia and Pitt, by the way, too.
And Pitt would be a massive win. I mean, and you look at some of the games coming at the top of this conference. Duke's playing Virginia next week. Georgia Tech has to play Pitt. Louisville's got to play SMU. Miami has to play Pitt. There's a ton of head-to-heads here that are going to decide this thing. And I'll tell you, here's the wildest part about this. I think especially when you talk about Duke and SMU. Look, there's one bid league, which is one thing. Is there a chance we get a no-bid league if Duke messes around and beats Virginia and just finds their way into the ACC title game? And that's not a bad football team. They just find ways to lose games. They lost to UConn this week. But
they'd be at best 8-4, by the way, for anyone who doesn't know. At best 8-4 going into the ACC title
Duke
game.
is 5-4, but with only one conference loss. And who knows if Chandler Morris is playing next week, and that game is at Duke. And Duke's offense is very good. It's just they turn the ball over at the wrong times. They find ways to lose games. But even a 9-4 Duke team with not a whole lot of great wins.
You could get James Madison over them.
Right. I mean, it's a scenario. I'm not saying
possible. I don't think it's likely, but it's possible.
I'm not saying it's likely, but it's on the table.
Yeah.
That if them or if SMU has 3 losses, correct? I believe.
Yeah,
already?
SMU is 7-3. They're 5-1 in conference, but they're 7-3 overall.
That would be the nightmare. God, if you got both of them, SMU versus Duke in the ACC title game, that would be the nightmare scenario.
Well, SMU would beat Louisville in that sense. I think that would get them in over James Madison because James Madison lost to Louisville.
Okay, that's all right. That's reasonable. But then, what if Duke were to beat SMU? See, this is the problem. If you have 4 losses, I mean, the ACC has been thrown into complete chaos here. But there's a lot of these head-to-heads are going to decide it. And I mean, look, Pitt too. Pitt's raging hot. We can't just forget about them as a playoff team too. Ever since they put Mason Heinschel in, but no, these ACC standings now and what the games we're about to get in this conference the next 3 weeks are going to be absolute wars because these are the biggest games of the season, and we're getting them all right at the end.
Crazy that we have this massive race in the ACC, and so many people's pick to win the national title, including mine, Clemson, is not even involved in it really at all.
No. I mean, Clemson and Florida State.
Crazy that Syracuse Orange aren't involved in it either, honestly. My Syracuse Orange.
Injuries. You can blame the injuries.
I'll blame the injuries. I will.
Steve Angeli might
I'll blame the injuries for that one.
Yep.
All right, let's get to the other top 15 team that lost in the ACC. That was Louisville, number 15 Louisville, losing to California 29-26 in overtime. Let's go over the highest graded player, starting off with the Golden Bears. Highest graded player was, of course, Jacob DeJesus, their wide receiver, who was unreal in this one. Dalton talked about him later on in the show. 79.8 grade for him. Brent Austin, the corner, 78.7. Luke Farrelly, the linebacker, 76.1. Kendrick Raphael, the running back, 73.5. Hezekiah Masses, 72.7. And Jaron Keave Sangapalotele with a 64 grade in the win for Cal. Let's go over to Louisville with their highest grade players in the loss. Rasheed Miller, the offensive tackle, with an elite 90.7 grade for him. Kewan Brown, the running back, 83.4. Clev Lubin, the edge rusher, 79.7. Renee Conga, the D tackle, 76.6. The other offensive tackle here, in Trevante Sylvester, 73.4. Miller Moss with only a 46.5 grade in the loss. Dalton, What told the story in this game?
So I think for me, I'm going to start with Cal's defense. And Justin Wilcox has really done a nice job over the last couple of years of building this defense from the back end up, Max. You look at where Cal is at. If you look at the rankings for coverage grades, all right, Cal is tied for 5th in the country in coverage grade now for the season. The 5 teams involved, okay, in that top 5 also, Texas Tech, Alabama, Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana. Wow. 5 playoff teams and then Cal. I mean, you just look at the job that they did in this game. And look, Miller Moss did struggle, but it's a really good secondary you're throwing into, especially in the second half for me. I think they really clamped it down. Louisville in the fourth quarter and overtime only scoring 3 points, and that's really because you're obligated basically to give up a field goal in overtime. 76.1 coverage grade in the second half for Cal. Only 1 explosive pass allowed in the second half that accounted for 37 of 79 passing yards for Miller Moss. 2 first downs allowed through the air in the second half of this game, 2 forced incompletions, and again, like I mentioned, 6th in the nation in coverage grade. You know, and last year, this started last year, really. Remember Noel Williams and Craig Woodson? You got NFL guys back there forcing turnovers, doing all that. But Brent Austin, Massis, and this Cal secondary was just outstanding, especially when it mattered most. As the game went on, they got even better, and this is not an easy team to cover, right? You've got Chris Bell, you've got Colin Lacey. Miller Moss, generally, when he's clean, is accurate. Louisville ran the ball well, even without Isaac Brown. Kewan Brown was really good on the ground. Duke Watson getting involved also, but at the end of the day, this Cal secondary, when they needed to be at their best, they were, and they've really done that all year.
Yeah, really, absolutely. They were 49th in coverage grade last year, and they lost some really good players in that secondary. Now they're even better this year, which is crazy for that Cal secondary. Right now, that goes into my stat is the EPA per pass difference in this one was massive. One quarterback struggled with another one played pretty well in this one overall. Cal, 0.223 EPA per pass, 350 yards through the air, 7.1 yards per pass. JKS had a 65.4 passing grade with 3 big-time throws and no turnover-worthy plays. Louisville, meanwhile, negative 0.313 EPA per pass with only 203 yards through the air, only 5.2 yards per attempt, and Miller Moss with about a 45 passing grade with 1 big-time throw and 2 turnover-worthy plays. So, you know, Jaron Keavi-Sangapotele was solid overall in the win for Cal. The really difference was, though, Miller Moss just was really, really struggling against that Cal secondary.
And the problem is with Moss, and he's a good player, he's a smart player, he knows what he's doing out there, but the limitations, right, because he doesn't play out of structure really at all, and the limitation even on his arm strength. He was 3 for 14 on 10-plus yard throws. That's really the issue, and we've talked about those vertical throws being the difference for Sangapolatelli. You look at him in this game, he was 7 for 18, so I mean, that's solid. It's not the greatest thing you've ever seen, but he's going to let it rip, and he at least has the ability to make those throws at any time. 3 big-time throws in this game. I think that's the real problem right now with this Louisville offense is everything around Miller Moss has to be perfect, right? The pass protection, the run game. Think about, he didn't play in this game, but think about how Isaac Brown played against Miami a couple weeks ago. Think about how Chris Bell played in that game. Colin Lacey, we've seen have big games this year. Everything around Miller Moss has to be perfect, and if it isn't, then you talk about, okay, we think in general that Louisville's a better team than Cal, yes, but when your quarterback has these types of limitations and the vertical passing game is just not there and it's not a threat when you need it to be, Cal was not afraid to get up in the secondary and jam these receivers and 2 really good receivers on the outside. Why? Because Miller Moss really struggles to throw it vertically and into those tight windows.
Who do you want to shut out here in this one?
I think to me, look, you know how it is. We have 5-6 games going on the TVs. We got the quad box going and all of it. Every single time I looked at the Cal game, this Cal-Louisville game, and Jacob DeJesus was just making another catch. The UNLV transfer working out of the slot. Just ridiculous. On top of the fact that he started the game, first play of the game was a trick play to him where he hit a 27-yard pass down the field, really setting a tone that, hey, DeJesus is going to be the guy today, and Louisville never got the memo. 22 targets. What is he Jamar Chase? What is going on here? I mean, that's what isn't that what Chase had last week in their loss to not the Jets, the Bears? I mean, 22 targets, 15 catches, 155 yards, all of those career highs, 83.1 receiving grade, a season high, 7 first downs, 4 explosive plays. It was just, and it was so fitting that the game started and ended with DeJesus, the one-on-one whip route that he wins with in overtime. He's just a really good route runner and a heady football player in the slot. Undersized, one of those classic slot receivers where you just go, he's crafty and shifty and he's going to find his way open, but Louisville had no answer for him. Every single time Sagapulotali needed a big play, it was Jacob DeJesus making it. 22 targets and 15 catches. Just ridiculous stuff.
Yeah, I want to shout out the Cal secondary even more, the corners especially in this one. Brent Austin and Hezekiah Masses were awesome in this one. Brent Austin, 78.7 PFF grade, 2 catches allowed on 6 targets with 3 forced incompletions, 1 coverage stop, and a 45.8 passer rating allowed. Masses, 3 catches allowed on 6 targets with an interception and a forced incompletion, and a 16.7 passer rating allowed. Cam Sidney and Jair Smith had 15 yards allowed combined as well. Chris Bell, who could be a first-round pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, only a 59.8 receiving grade for him and only 49 receiving yards because of how good these corners have been for Cal this year.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Again, the secondary took this game over in the second half. They took advantage of Miller Moss not having his best day in Louisville. Now they're hanging by a thread. They still have an opportunity in the ACC to compete. They've got a huge game coming against SMU. They've got a shot, but they need a lot of help in this ACC race if they're going to get in that title game with 2 losses.
Yeah, Louisville right now 4-2 in conference and 7-2 overall. So yeah, Louisville needs some help right now in the ACC race. They got a big game against Clemson coming up this week, and then at SMU, and then close it out against Kentucky too. But yeah, Louisville, these next 2 weeks against Clemson and SMU are huge. They got to win both those games, and they need help in the ACC as well in order to get into the conference title game. But big win for Cal, who's now bowl eligible at 6-4 this year. So big shout out to the Golden Bears for a huge win over a top 15 team in Louisville. All right, let's get to another big game, big upset in the Big Ten conference that we had. That was Wisconsin beating number 23 Washington 13-10 and really ending any sort of hopes that Washington had of winning or making the college football playoffs. Let's go over the highest grade player, starting off with the Wisconsin Badgers. Their highest grade player was linebacker Cooper Catalano with an 81 PFF grade. Another linebacker here in Mason Posa, 79.6. Edge rusher Mason Reiger, 78.3. Matthew Jung, the safety, 70.5. D tackle Ben Barton, 70.5. And Carter Smith, the quarterback, with only a 43 PFF grade in the win. Let's go over to Washington with their highest grade players in the loss. Wide receiver Denzel Boston, projected first-round pick in this year's draft, 75.3. Rylan Dillard Allen, the safety, 73.1. Tai Uyunglele with a 72.4 grade at D tackle. Ephesians Prysock, the cornerback, 71.1. Zach Durfee, the edge rusher, with a 70 grade. And DeMond Williams Jr. really struggled with a 45.1 grade in the loss. Dalton, what told the story in this just absolutely hideous but a big upset for Wisconsin?
Boy, it was ugly. It was ugly, wasn't it? But you know what? If Wisconsin's going to win, they're going to win ugly. You know, you mentioned Carter Smith, the quarterback there. I think the stat that sums up this game more than anything is that Wisconsin's punter was their leading passer with the one
That's crazy.
With the one fake punt going for 24 yards. 4 different players threw a pass for Wisconsin in this game. Danny O'Neal leaving early with an injury. Hunter Simmons finishing out the first half. Then they went to Carter Smith, and and then the punter is their leading passer. It's in the pouring rain. It's Wisconsin football. But I mean, look, if you want to win a game like this, I think so often something that jumped out to me watching it and going back again was field position. Kind of a big thing, right? If Washington wants to score more than those 10 points they have, they got to earn it. When you look at calculating the average starting field position, Washington, roughly their own 24-yard line. And if you take out the one-yard touchdown drive they had that they got off a block punt, then it would be their own 17. Now, this Wisconsin defense, despite the struggles of their offense and the record, it's still a pretty good unit led there by Luke Fickell, and credit to Fickell as well. He gets a vote of confidence, right, from the AD. He's not getting fired this year. Comes out and gets his first ranked win as Wisconsin's head coach. I mean, that's quite a bounce back from a lot of people calling for his head. And then you get that vote of confidence. You go, okay, there's something. You just won a game with no offense whatsoever. We know Luke Fickell can coach defense. He did it to a T in this game. But Washington's starting almost every time inside their own 25, often inside, especially late in the game. It felt like they were living at their own 8-yard line. Wisconsin, average starting field position, their own 45. Now, they didn't do a whole lot with it, but all 3 of their scoring drives started in Washington territory, right? Forcing turnovers. Damon Williams with 2 turnovers. Washington 1 for 3 on 4th down. They missed a potential tying field goal in the 4th quarter. This offensively for Washington just turned into 2 things. One, the injuries were killing them. Jonah Coleman, I believe it was only 5 carries for 2 yards, basically didn't play in the second half of this game, so the run game was not there for Washington. Denzel Boston playing through it, banged up a little bit, still playing through it, was their highest graded player. And then it felt like Williams, especially under all of the pressure that he was getting. I thought the defensive line did an outstanding job controlling this game, especially with their pass rush. Damon Williams under pressure 53% of the time in this game, and you could feel really watching him that he could feel the pressure, and he's trying to do too much. The interception deep in the end zone to Ricardo Hallman, that was a classic case of trying to do way too much. Williams trying to carry this offense and getting out of structure too often under pressure really hurt him, especially in a game in the pouring rain where you would love to have Jonah Coleman and you'd love to be able to run the football, but Wisconsin got to play a Wisconsin football game built on their defense. Luke Fickell comes out with his first ranked win as the Badgers head coach. Credit to him because it's been a tumultuous season.
So the punter who was the leading passer, was he actually the punter or did they pull a USC?
No, they were out. Wisconsin was out of quarterbacks.
That's
at that
true.
Point.
That is true. Yeah.
This was actually their punter. I don't know.
That USC thing was hilarious. That
was pretty awesome. No, this was actually their punter.
By the way, Sam Heward was the fake punter for USC on that one. Sam Heward's a 5-star quarterback like 3 years ago.
No, we play real football in Madison, Wisconsin. We actually let our punters throw the football.
Love that.
That's exactly how that works.
My stat is obviously just Washington negative .284 EPA per play in this one. It was just an all-around hideous football game, or really maybe a beautiful one if you love defensive football, defensive Big Ten football, in the elements, in the rain and also the snow it turned into in Madison, Wisconsin as well. Only 3.2 yards per play combined for both Wisconsin and Washington in this one. It's the worst EPA per play for Washington since they joined the Big Ten. The last time they had an EPA per play worse than this was their win, actually, over Arizona State in 2023 when Michael Penix Jr. was still the quarterback.
Yeah, when it was it like 13-9 or something?
Yeah,
they
it was
scored
an
a
ugly
late
game.
It was like a late defensive touchdown.
It was like 16-9 maybe or something like that.
It was something in there. It was like a late defensive touchdown against in a game that nobody thought would be close. They were probably favored by 30-something. But no, I mean, that I remember that one.
Their year where they made the national title game, that was the last time they had an offensive performance as bad as what they just did yesterday, last night, against Wisconsin. Again, a lot like Wake Forest, it felt like in this one, where Wisconsin, the way they're going to win this ball game is by dragging you into the mud in a defensive game, and they did just that against Washington in this one, even though Washington entered the week with one of the best offenses in America, one of the most efficient offenses in the country, and it was not that at all against Wisconsin. Only a 52.1 offensive grade for the Huskies. It's their second worst all year, only ahead of the Michigan loss a couple weeks ago. Again, just a really great job by Wisconsin's defense of dragging them into the mud, quite literally into the mud in this one. And the Badgers, even though they had also an ugly offensive performance, they could survive and win this game and kill Washington's hopes of making the playoff this year.
It's just such a fun stat. Sean West, their punter, had 24 yards passing. The 3 quarterbacks that played combined for 24 yards passing. That's so awesome. That's just so like. And you know what? It doesn't.
QB1.
It doesn't.
Give
always,
Sean West some reps back there.
We might have to. Hey, they won a game with him as their leading passer. I mean, it's they're 1-0 when Sean West is their leading passer.
I love that.
I mean, yeah, no, absolutely. But again, it was just Washington. Again, credit to Wisconsin's defense. Just unbelievable effort, man, to come out in what's really been a lost season, and right after Luke Fickell gets that vote of confidence, man, that's really good stuff. That's huge for them.
So obviously, I would imagine your most impressive will not be an offensive player in this one. Who do you want to shout out defensively? For
I
Wisconsin?
thought about it for about a millisecond, sure, but just tough to define the offense. 9 of our 10 highest graded players on that board there were all 9 defensive players and Denzel Boston. That's about right.
Yep.
But no, I mean, let's look on the defensive line from Wisconsin, the Louisville transfer. How many pass rushers does Louisville need? They had so many extra that Mason Riger decided to leave. He was like, man, I need a starring role around here. Well, he found it. 8 pressures and a sack in this game. Moving all around the defensive line. He's a versatile piece. You can put him on stunts, a really good athlete. I think he might be one of those sneaky late round guys that teams start thinking about on that defensive line. He was good at Louisville in a part-time role. He can do a lot of different things up front. 73 run defense grade, also 17 run defense snaps and no negative grades. Mason Riger was outstanding. The whole Wisconsin pass rush was outstanding, but Riger was really the face of it to me in this game.
Yeah, I got to shout out the linebackers for Wisconsin. You saw on the screen earlier, the 2 highest graded players overall for Wisconsin were their 2 linebackers in Cooper Catalano and Mason Posa. They are the best players on the field in this one. Catalano, 74 run defense grade, 4 run defense stops, and a tackle for loss. Also had a 76.5 coverage grade with 2 coverage stops on 4 targets in this one. And then Mason Posa, man, was a demon as a blitzer in this game. 92.2 pass rush grade, 3 sacks, and 4 pressures on only 8 pass rushing snaps for Mason Posa. Also, if that's not enough, he had 2 cover stops as well in this one. It was a major reason why Washington's offense had their worst performance since they joined the Big Ten a couple years ago.
No, outstanding stuff from the players. And I'll say again, Luke Fickell, I mean, with the blitz packages and the stunts and everything they were putting together to confuse the offensive line and confuse Damon Williams. He really had no idea where to go. Had 67 yards as a scramble, but everything just looked out of sorts. When you look at also the way they played in run defense, 25 design carries for Washington for just 81 yards. I mean, we've talked about it this year. The run game is actually an X factor for this Huskies team. They could not get it going in the design run game. Just an unbelievable game plan put together, an unbelievable defensive game put together by Wisconsin, pulling off a huge upset. And like you mentioned earlier, Washington dead in the water now in the playoff race. Not happening.
And I'll tell you what, man, for Mason Posa, 3 sacks is impressive in its own. But 3 sacks on a quarterback like Damon Williams, who is so hard to tackle, that's pretty impressive
big.
as
well. That is big. When you can find a way to keep Williams in the pocket and make him get vertical and run into you instead of breaking outside towards the hash marks, that's big time.
Yep. In the battle of the 2 W logos in the Big Ten, it was Wisconsin that got the massive W over Washington. All right, next up we got – that was really corny right there. I want to apologize for that.
Yeah,
Usually you're the one that says corny stuff.
I'm only mad at Eli because
that was really corny.
I get booed for saying things like that all the time, and there's just radio silence. I wonder if he's asleep.
They're just sleeping or watching.
Why does Max not get booed? I'm the only one that gets booed. I know you wouldn't.
That was I'll hand up. I'll admit.
I know you wouldn't boo Trevor. He's the big shot.
He's a big shot. You can't do that.
If Max doesn't get booed,
you get fired if you boo Trevor.
Come on, probably. Come on, Eli. Jeez, at least make it fair.
Let's get to the next game we got. Number 16, Vanderbilt surviving Auburn. You called this one, Dalton. You said this would be a close game for Vanderbilt, and it was very close because they won in overtime over the Auburn Tigers, 45-38. Let's go over the highest grade players, starting off with the Vanderbilt Commodores. Eli Stowers, the tight end, 78.6. Randon Fontenette, the safety, 75.8. Brian Longwell, the linebacker, 73. Joshua Singh, the D-tackle, 71.6. Junior Sherrill, the wide receiver, 68.5. And how about Diego Pavia, man? It's been a kind of a rough couple weeks for him lately, but he bounced back in a major way with a 90.9 grade for him against Auburn. Let's go over to the Auburn Tigers with their highest grade players in the loss. Xavier Atkins, linebacker, 74.8. Another linebacker here, and Robert Woodyard Jr., 74.7. Wide receiver Eric Singleton Jr., 74.6. Xavier Chaplin, the tackle, 73.8. Jay Crawford, the corner, 71.7. And how about this, Dalton? Ashton Daniels, the highest graded player for Vanderbilt and Auburn, is their quarterback. Ashton Daniels, the backup who entered the year, 82 grade in the loss for Auburn. So shout out to him, man, because it has been a brutal stretch for Auburn throwing the football in this one. But Ashton Daniels put up a valiant effort in this close loss.
Tell you what, I mean, both quarterbacks were outstanding. Credit to Ashton Daniels. Credit to this Auburn team for fighting. And look, they really haven't gotten dominated in any of their games this year, right? They've just lost a lot of close games just like this, but they keep battling. Their front seven keeps battling. And Daniels, you know what? As a guy just coming in there, he wasn't expected to be the starter really at any point this year with the expectations the Tigers had. He played a great game. There was no reason to blame Ashton Daniels for this loss at all. And, you know, I saw a tweet from ESPN's Cole Kublik. He says this was the first game that Vanderbilt's ever won where they gave up 38 points.
Wow.
Ever. That's the type of shootout you were talking about. I thought this game would be closer and Auburn had a shot in an ugly defensive game.
Yeah.
It turned into just an absolute shootout, an absolute war that, of course, we thought we were going to get between Diego Pavia and Ashton Daniels. That makes plenty of sense, but that's why college football is so much fun because you never know what you get in any game.
Well, Daniels was unexpected, but, dude, Diego Pavia was unreal.
I mean, this is just, you talk about, you know, we talked earlier about Fernando Mendoza just grinding and finding his way through that game. That was Diego Pavia in this one. This was an unbelievable performance. You talk about a reason why, you talk about Heisman moments and Heisman-type games. These are the games why Diego Pavia can do that, right? Because I told you the designed rushing game would struggle. 3.1 yards per design carry. This Auburn run defense is elite, one of the best in the country. 4 of Vanderbilt's 6 explosive runs were Pavia scrambles. Okay, so this was him putting the team. If he's questionable in a couple weeks here against Kentucky with a back injury, I will know exactly why, because he carried this team through this game almost single-handedly. Eli Stowers was great too, but you look at Pavia, 91.1 passing grade, 377 yards through the air, 4 touchdowns, 4 big-time throws, most of it without play action. I think he only had 7 or 8 play action dropbacks in this game. The difference in this Vanderbilt offense, I talked about it earlier this season. The run game is great. We know they're creative. We know Tim Beck can draw up whatever he wants as far as just fooling people, right? The difference this year is they can just drop back in a game like this and throw the football. I think there's a real chance that last year's Vanderbilt team would have lost this game against this run defense. Pavia also, of course, 114 yards on the ground. I mean, you come out of a game like this with, excluding sacks, because we don't do that here, 491 yards of offense for one person. That's Diego Pavia in a nutshell right there. It's just there sometimes comes a moment like Mendoza at Indiana, and we even have one more right after this, I think, where your quarterback he's just got to do it. He's just got to be the superstar again. Eli Stowers was great. Junior Sherrill making clutch plays as well. Cedric Alexander had a touchdown, but the run game wasn't all the way there. This was Diego Pavia. Just plain and simple. Put him on your back, trying to make a playoff run. 8-2, did I see for the first time since World War II?
Probably.
I believe I saw. I think it was 1941 was the year that I saw.
I think it is that, yeah.
I mean, this is where we're at. Look, Vandy, survive and advance. Don't matter at this point what it looks like. You've got Kentucky, you got Tennessee coming up. You had to get through a quietly tough game in Auburn and a really good defense, at least up front. The secondary is not great, but that's why Pavia took advantage. He was just this is heroic stuff from him.
Yeah, my stat is just Pavia still. I mean, Vandy, 11.4 yards per pass in this game, 91.1 passing grade, 377 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, 4 big-time throws, no turnover-worthy plays. Shout out the offensive line for Vanderbilt, too, and we've maligned it a lot on this show. I will admit, they stepped up against a pretty good Auburn defensive line, gave Pavia a clean pocket about 88% of the time in this one. That is elite stuff from that offensive line. So shout out to them in this one too. And listen, Auburn secondary, their run defense has been great all year. Their secondary has been atrocious, and Pavia lit them up in this game too. And Pavia is awesome as a runner too, but as a passer, man, he was unreal. Over 11 yards per pass for Vanderbilt in this one. And the downfall of Auburn's season, I would say, has been their passing game and their pass defense. And the passing game stepped up in this one. The pass defense for Auburn really let them down in this game.
No, absolutely. I want to shout out. Pavia is obviously the most impressive, but my next one would be that you're right, the Vanderbilt pass protection. Their second highest pass blocking grade of the year. The only game they were better was the LSU game. Offensive line only charged with 4 pressures all day, all hurries. Pavia only sacked once, and we charged that to him, holding the ball too long on a rollout. 4 of their 5 offensive linemen with at least a 78 pass blocking grade. That's ideal. That's how Pavia has a huge game. That's how you score 45 points.
So I want to shout out someone who I'm sure, if Auburn fans are watching this video, and I'm sure even Vanderbilt fans or anyone watching this video saying, how on earth is Cam Coleman not one of the 5 highest graded players for Auburn in this one? I will say he had a fumble in this game that dragged down his grade.
We kill you for fumbles.
We do. But taking that aside, he was unreal yesterday. Oh, my God, dude. This guy was unreal against Vanderbilt in this one. He caught all 8 of his targets for 94 yards and 2 touchdowns. He made an outrageous sideline catch early on in the game, a lot like the Omar Cooper Jr. catch that he had to beat in Penn State this week too, where somehow, even though he's falling out of bounds, somehow he got a toe down in bounds in this one. And then also later on, Cam Coleman had back-to-back one-handed catches, one of them for a touchdown, and then the very next play, the 2-point conversion to get it as well. He was unreal, man. I think his ball skills are second to none in college football right now. I think, and we have a lot of great receivers like Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, and a bunch of guys. Mekhi Lemon even has been great in 50-50 situations. But if you need a jump ball on a goal line fade, I think Cam Coleman might be on my number one pick to take that jump ball.
I'd probably put him 2 because that guy at Ohio State's pretty good.
It's close.
It is close, and Coleman is that talent. The official 9 catches, 120 yards, and that official catch count doesn't count the 2-point conversion. That goes in the actual box score. And you mentioned it, the fumble's the only thing that kills the grade. That's how it works around here. We kill you for fumbles. But no, Coleman. I mean, and the only thing I'll say for Auburn is the very last play. Everybody knew what was coming, and a great play call from Vanderbilt to get the double going on. We're like,
the corner looked like he was blitzing for a second, and you and I are like, how on earth are you going one-on-one with Cam Coleman?
Yeah, CJ Hurd dropped off, and they
really
got the bracket going.
Yeah.
It was like, that's the one. Make him go anywhere else. But you're right. I mean, Coleman, because of the way Auburn's season has gone, and even their quarterback situation the last couple of years, hasn't gotten enough hype. He is that guy. When you talk about this 2027 class, he is right near the top of it, right up there with Jeremiah Smith.
He's a special talent, man. Could be a top 10, should be a top 10 pick in next year's draft, and we'll see. We'll see what happens with Auburn. Maybe he sticks around at Auburn, but if he does enter the transfer portal, he will be probably the biggest name in the portal. I'll tell you that right now.
You could argue it.
There will be millions thrown at that kid if he enters the portal.
Well, they need to throw it at him to keep him there because, I mean, he has to be – and again, he
should be priority number one.
This has been a run-first team lately, and now they have to refine their identity with whoever their coach is going to be. But boy, oh boy, he is just especially with those 2 catches back-to-back in the end zone late. I mean, he's just – you talk about the ball skills, just ridiculous in the hands. Yeah.
It's hard to say anyone will be – as good as Jeremiah Smith right now if he had better quarterback play. But I really do think if Cam Coleman had quarterback play that was on par with what Jeremiah Smith has had in his first 2 years, he maybe not be better than Jeremiah Smith, but he'd be very close, I think. He's an unreal talent, man.
He's as talented as anybody.
Yeah. He is unbelievable. So, Cam Coleman, just what a performance by him against Vanderbilt. It's been a rough year passing the ball for Auburn, but you got a freak like Cam Coleman as your X receiver, and he can make a lot of magical plays happen, even with a lot of inaccurate balls he's been dealing with his first 2 years, really, at Auburn. But even so, Vanderbilt still pulling out a 45-38 victory over Auburn in overtime and keeping their playoff hopes alive for the Commodores. Last game in this review before we get to our playoff bracket and also our Heisman update. We got Tulane beating Memphis in a major game in the American Conference, 38-32, the final score on Friday night. Let's go over the highest graded player, starting off with the Memphis Tigers. Highest graded player was Travis Burke. Sorry, Tulane actually, because they won the game. Bryce Bohannon, 82.4. Chris Rogers, the linebacker, 77.3. Javin Gordon, the running back, 76.7. Shaz Preston, the wide receiver, 74.3. Santana Hopper, the D tackle, 69.4. And Jake Retzlaff with a 92.2 grade for him in the win for Tulane. Let's go over to the highest grade players for Memphis. Offensive tackle, Travis Burke, 74.8. Sam Brumfield, the linebacker, 72.9. Jamari Hawkins, the wide receiver, 70.9. Cortez Braum Jr., the 69.9, the wide receiver. Jalen Bell, the D tackle, 69.6. And Brendan Lewis is also the highest graded player for Memphis, like the quarterback was for Tulane, but only a 75.6 grade for him in the loss. Dalton, what's the story in this game?
This was the third of our 3 quarterback games here. We had Fernando Mendoza. We had Diego Pavia in the last game we just talked about with Vanderbilt. This was the Jake Retzlaff game. And you look at the first half of this game, I'm just going to kind of roll through all this all at once. First of all, Tulane came out just raging hot. Just the game plan. You know, I talked in the preview about intermediate passing, and they must be thanking me because apparently I blared the sirens for Memphis to step up, and they decided they were going to throw it over their heads instead and finally get really vertical in this game. Jake Retzlaff, 6 for 8 on the deep ball, but Tulane in the first half in general, 5 touchdowns, just 1 punt, a 92.2 92.3 offensive grade as a team in the first half of this game. 9 explosive plays, 0.927 EPA per play in the first half. Memphis early in this game just had no answers, and they fell behind, and they just could never claw all the way back. Tulane let off the gas a little bit in the second half and gave them a chance, but wasn't enough. And when you fall behind like that, and this offense just came out this hot, this first half was the best offensive half I've seen Tulane play all season. I'm just going to it's Jake Retzloff.
Yeah.
I mean, this was the Jake Retzloff game. 92.2 passing grade, career high, 332 yards on just 24 attempts. You're talking about 15 yards per pass, 3 touchdowns, 4 big-time throws, and also 50 rushing yards and a touchdown when early in the game on a Javen Gordon touchdown run, Retzloff was carrying out an option fake, and it looked like he tweaked his knee or something. He comes back, actually I should say he missed a couple of snaps. He comes back out with a knee sleeve on. The mobility is clearly hampered, and he still comes out and toughs it out with whatever knee injury that he did have, and he finds a way. This was the best game of his career. BYU, Tulane, wherever he's been, this was the best game of his career. And Tulane, with their backs against the wall, with the just whacking they took last week against UTSA. They got absolutely whooped against UTSA. To come back on the road against Memphis, another prime contender in this conference, and to get back on track here and get into that first class of American contenders, what a huge win for the Green Wave, man. I did not think they would bounce back from that UTSA loss like this, but their quarterback, Jake Retzloff, really got him through it and just continues to prove me wrong, doesn't he?
Yeah, just unreal what Tulane did throwing the ball in this game. .906 EPA per pass is their best EPA per pass figure since their game against USF last year. Tulane just torched this Memphis secondary with Retzloff having 4 big-time throws, 1 turnover-worthy play, over 330 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, 77.4 receiving grade for Tulane, second highest of the year for the Green Wave. And really, it ended up being a shootout, and Tulane came out on top of that shootout. I'll go to my most impressive real quick. Bryce Bohannon, the wide receiver, 4 catches for a career-high 101 yards. He averaged over 5.6 yards per route run. Made a couple really tough catches over the middle of the field in this one. Took a couple big hits and still held onto the football as well. He was the number 3 receiver for Tulane going into the week, but he looked like the best one against Memphis too. So shout out to Bryce Bohannon for having a career day really against Memphis.
Yeah, they got multiple threats. They got Amari Hayes, you've got Shaz Preston, you've got Bryce Bohannon, right? But I mean, this team now you start to feel like they're right back in this, and we got some interesting developments here now at the Group of 5 level. James Madison escaped Marshall with a win. It was a tough game, but they got out of there with a win. You saw San Diego State just get demolished last night by Hawaii in Hawaii. So you're not getting them out. You're getting one of 2 things for this Group of 5. It's not officially a Group of 5 invite, but that's what it is. You're either getting the American champion or you're getting James Madison. There's no
or both.
Or, well, there's
madness in ACC happens.
Well, there's a scenario where you do get both. I suppose that is true, but I mean, you look at a huge game this coming week with USF and Navy that we're going to preview. The loser of that's probably out, but there is a road here where any 3 I don't think Navy plays Tulane. I'm pretty sure
they do not.
They do not. Navy plays USF and Memphis. That's right. But there's a road here where you get a 3-way tie between some combination of Tulane, North Texas, and then whoever wins that USF-Navy game next week. There's a road here. North Texas, pretty easy schedule moving forward. Tulane, this was such a huge win for them when you look at this. And then you look again with the Mountain West basically eliminated. Tulane left. They have FAU, Temple, Charlotte. I would expect them to run the table there, and North Texas as well.
East Carolina also could be in that if they beat Memphis coming up.
That's a good call. They still only have 1 loss as well. They have USF also. That's going to be USF. Their next 2 games. They're really the X factor here. And a lot of people think they're the favorite and that they're the best team. But 2 tough games coming against Navy and against East Carolina. If somehow
they don't play East Carolina.
Oh, they don't play East Carolina. I thought they did.
East Carolina's got Memphis, UTSA, and FAU.
Oh, they have UTSA. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought ECU played USF for some reason. But that's the only other. It's the only other scenario that you can't have if you're the American and you want a playoff team in there. You don't want the conference, man. East Carolina winning the conference would really lean towards James Madison at that point. Yeah. But you look at the road, I think especially that Tulane and North Texas have pretty easy schedules moving forward here. USF's really the X factor. This game against Navy coming up is as big as it gets. And Navy coming off 2 losses, and who knows, Blake Horvath, the injury, getting held out against Notre Dame. Maybe that was just, punt this one and get him healthy for the USF game. But there's an opportunity for a lot of teams here in the American. And with San Diego State losing the way they did, you're really looking at the American champion. Boys got to be feeling pretty good about their chances.
Absolutely, yeah. Memphis right now 4-2 in conference, 8-2 overall. So they're hanging on by a thread right now. They have to beat East Carolina, and they'll pass up East Carolina in the standings. And then if you beat Navy, you could pass up Navy in the standings too. But I don't know if it'd be enough, even if they win both those games.
The problem is going to be, they have the 2 losses already. They would lose a tiebreaker to Tulane, and you need some other teams to lose.
You need USF to lose, because you're the tiebreaker over USF if they lose.
Right, but your problem is they won't be ahead of Tulane or North Texas, and those 2 teams have pretty easy schedules for their last 3 games. At that point, if they get a 3-way tie, we'll see. But right now, Tulane and North Texas have pretty solid roads to the end of the year.
Yeah, because Tulane's got FAU, Temple, and Charlotte to close out the year. So they should win all 3 of those games.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, big win for Tulane, and what could be a playoff killer for Memphis as well. 38-32, the Green Wave come out on top. All right, not done with the show just yet. Still have our Heisman segment and also our updated playoff bracket segment coming up. But before that, got to talk about Fabric by Gerber Life. Parenting is filled with high-pressure decisions, and it can be difficult to tell if we've made the right choice for our kids' future. But here's a simple decision that you can make today that can have a meaningful impact on your kid's future. That's opening a UGMA Kids Investment Account with Fabric to start their investment journey early and give them a financial head start. Fabric by Gerber Life was designed by parents for parents to make it easy to plan for and manage your family's financial path. With a kids investment account from Fabric, you can start investing in your child's future today. Kids can't invest when they're minors, but a UGMA Kids Investment Account allows them to invest on their behalf now and gives their investments more time to grow. There are no contribution limits, multiple tax advantages, and they're SIPC insured up to $500,000. Plus, no commission fees and just a low, flat monthly maintenance fee. Fabric has partnered with Gerber Life, trusted by millions of families like yours for over 50 years. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their family. Start investing in your child today at meetfabric.com/PFF college. That's meetfabric.com/PFF college, meetfabric.com/PFF college. This is a paid promotion for the Fabric UGMA product and not for investment advisory services. Portfolios are managed by Fort Washington Investment Advisors Incorporated. A custodial service provided by Apex Clearing Corporation. All investing subject to risk. Terms may apply. Learn more at meetfabric.com. All right. Let's get to our updated Heisman rankings right now, Dalton. 5-1. How would you order the Heisman Trophy race right now?
All right, number 5, I'm going to go with a guy we actually didn't see this week, Georgia Tech on a bye week. I'm going to leave it. This was a debate for this number 5 spot because there was some other guys I could have easily thrown here. I mentioned Jacob Rodriguez earlier in the show. David Bailey's a good mention. How about Byron Brown right now is the 3rd highest graded quarterback in the country for USF in the blazing hot stretch he's on. I think he had a 94 grade against UTSA this past week. But I'm going to go with Haynes King here. Also in that mix among the highest graded quarterbacks in the country. 5th in the nation among quarterbacks, 2nd in the Power 4 in rushing yards. He's been outstanding all year. We mentioned it last week that he was certainly not the reason that they lost to NC State. Defense gave up 48 points. Nobody carries their team. A couple of guys, maybe Diego Pavia too in there in that mix. I'll talk about him, but very few guys, if any, carry their team like Haynes King. Just because they had a week off, he should not be forgotten about. Number 4, I'm going with Ty Simpson from Alabama. He's been obviously really good. You know I love Ty Simpson. Little lower in the grade rankings, more like a top 25 guy in the grading, and it was kind of a really good first half from him this week, and I thought he missed a few throws in the second half, and Alabama winning a mostly defensive game against LSU, but the schedule he's gone through and the way he's played for the most part this year, outstanding stuff. Number 3, I'm actually putting Diego Pavia for the way that he carried this team through this Auburn win and the way that he continues to carry this team through tough times. Yes, he had the 2 turnovers, the big turnovers against Alabama, and they got off to a slow start, but keep in mind, too, even in that Texas game, man, oh man, he almost brought him all the way back, right? Pavia and Haynes King are the two guys that I'm like, boy, nobody puts their team on their back like that. Number 2, I'm going Fernando Mendoza. The game-winning drive, he was excellent throughout the day. Wavered a bit, obviously, with the interception to King Mack earlier in the fourth quarter, but that drive, I mean, it is a big moment, right? To go on the road in a difficult environment, even with a Penn State team playing a lot better than their record shows. Got Mendoza at 2, but number 1, Julian Sand from Ohio State just continues to he's played darn near perfect football this year. Like, I think 93.5 passing grade. The next closest player is at 90.8. Again, on pace to set records for completion percentage, adjusted completion rate, accuracy rates on par with the Joe Burrows and Bo Nixes and guys we have records for in our quarterback charting. And think about it this way. He had that interception in the end zone deep in Purdue territory there in the red zone. That was probably his worst. I haven't looked at it officially, but that was probably his worst throw of the year, and he still had an 88.8 passing grade this week. Just casual. It's every week, just casually. 27 to 33. Yeah, that's normal. It's just every single week. Think about it this way. He's had at least a 70% completion rate in all but one game this year, and the one game was the Texas game, and it was 65. He's playing perfect football. I don't even know at this point. Because I get it with Mendoza and struggling and then getting the big drive going, but Julian Sand doesn't even get to have those because he's so dominant.
Yeah, that's why Heisman moments are so overrated. They're so overrated. I get it. Like
they matter in
their memories, but
they matter in a sense, and winning matters, which is why for as great a numbers.
Yeah, but if you're blowing out teams.
Oh, no,
having a Heisman moment doesn't really matter.
It's just what we're leading to. It's the idea that it's not locked up by any means, but I'm in the boat that I think Sand's the best quarterback in the country.
Yeah.
It's just the draft scouts are going to hype up Mendoza because that's a this year thing.
Yeah.
But no, Sand, and look, we're going to find this out. He gets to go in the big house and play Michigan.
That'll be a Heisman moment right there.
And then those two get to go and play each other.
And then whoever wins that is a Heisman moment.
That's pretty much what you're looking at.
I saw the argument on Twitter. It was like, oh, Satan doesn't have a Heisman moment yet. It's like, yeah, because they've blown everyone else out of the country. Like, I feel like the Texas game was the only game that was even close this year for Ohio State. Like, sorry that Julian Sand just completely torched a Penn State defense a couple weeks ago. That was just a blowout. So
I think we are most likely just going down the road where those two are going to get to duke it out.
Yeah, that's it. And I said it before.
And all things considered, with Ohio State and the losing streak to Michigan, that's going to be a big deal.
No, it won't. And I said it before, like, whoever wins that game is going to win the Heisman. That's just what it's going to be. So there's no really point of screaming about it yet either because it's just not worth it at this point. But my number 5, I had Jeremiah Love. So I had a non-quarterback in there. I think he's been unreal this year. He's been the best running back in the country, in my opinion. He had a great game against Navy, an unreal touchdown run, too. We somehow stayed up on his feet. He's been unreal this year. Number 4, I have Diego Pavia, second in PFF grade this year, only behind Julian Sand, 90.9 PFF grade this year. Number 3, Ty Simpson from Alabama, who's been really, really good this year. And I think him beating Diego Pavia kept him over for me. And also, like, he's just been so good this year against a really hard schedule. And then I think the top 2 are starting to separate themselves right now, Mendoza and Sand. I think Mendoza's been great this year. I'm not trying to take that away from him, but he has been phenomenal. 26 touchdowns, 5 picks in the year, 90.3 PFF grade, tie for 6th in the country. But number 1 for me with a silver bullet is still Julian Sand. This kid's been the best quarterback in the country, 93.5 PFF grade with 86.3% adjusted completion rate, 80.9% completion rate, which would be easily right now the best in the country by over 8 points and would be the all-time record as well. Julian Sand is the best quarterback in the country. And by the way, it is possible to have the best quarterback and great receivers too. It is possible. It's not one or the other. It's not one carrying the other. It is possible. I'm not saying they're as good as this team in 2019, but Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and Justin Jefferson, they're all good players in their own right. It is possible Julian Sand's awesome, Jeremiah Smith's awesome, and Carnell Tate's awesome. That is possible, guys. It's not just one or the other.
Oh, well,
those people on Twitter arguing like, oh, it's just because of the receivers. And then for Jeremiah Smith, it's like, oh, it's because he has Julian Sand. It's like, no, maybe it's both.
I mean, Jeremiah did it with Will Howard, did he not?
Dude, the bad faith arguments I'm seeing on Twitter right now are ridiculous.
We'll just take it from our angle. Ohio State's first in the country in passing grade and first in receiving grade.
There you go.
And you know what? He did it yesterday without Carnell Tate.
Yep.
So I know Jeremiah's Superman, but I mean this. And look, who's second in the nation in receiving grade? Indiana.
Is it Indiana?
Yeah.
They got good players too.
I mean,
it's not Jeremiah Smith-Carnell tape with it.
Great.
Cooper, Surratt.
Charlie Becker, apparently.
Charlie Becker, yeah.
I mean, Charlie Becker, we're making the argument. But I mean, look, great teams have great receivers. It is what it is. Texas A&M with Craver and KC. I mean, USC and all the guys. Notre Dame's got a million of them. You saw them all yesterday at some. Good teams have good receivers.
Yep.
And Sayan is not getting carried. That kid is a freak of nature with the accuracy.
No, it's unbelievable. Yeah. So, again, I know I got a little bit hot right there, too, but it's going to happen. We're going to figure this out in December. Whoever wins the Big Ten title game is most likely going to win the Heisman Trophy as well. So, it all gets settled later on in the year. But, yeah, I just know a lot of people right now are really staking their claim for who should win the Heisman. Every year this happens. Like the Travis Hunter, Ashton Jeanty debate last year was contentious.
The only award I'm going to lock in right now, and because I've been on this for the last 24 hours, is Rodriguez should win the Butkus.
Yeah.
That's the only – and even then, is anybody else arguing with me on that?
Yes.
You can if you want.
No, absolutely. Fun, and I would argue he might not even win it. Arvell Reese might win it. You know he will. Dude, Jalen Walker won the Butkus last year for doing the same thing, really. We love Arvell Reese on the show. I'm not saying he's not.
Oh, he might be second, but I see no reason for anybody.
I'm just saying, do not be surprised if he wins that award.
Well, we have our own award show after the season ends, so we'll take care of that.
The only ones that matter.
There's a long way to go in this Heisman race. It's going to be a fun one.
Oh wow, Jack 1000 in the chat saying I like the no glasses and no hat look for Max. #hot.
Wow,
might be my burner account. Maybe or not. We'll see.
You're conceited enough to type that in about yourself?
I typed it in. Just trying to get the people going about it. Wow. Nobody's responded to it. It's just,
I didn't think.
It's just my burner. It's damn, Max looks hot today, right, guys?
You're just trying to get. I see what you're doing. You're getting the group think going. You're trying to get people to agree with you, man.
Yeah. Oh, man. All right, let's get to.
Just shave your head. It'll work. Trust me.
Yeah, I should do that. Let's get to the this playoff bracket. Now, I made this playoff bracket. Our producer Eli made the graphics for it. And I might have some changes I want to make, Dalton. So actually, I think what we should do on the show is have you what?
You're breaking like the number one rule. He already had the graphic made.
I was like, Eli, can I change it at all? And he's like, no. And I was like, okay. So what we're gonna do here is
let's see what your original idea was.
We're gonna show my 5 a.m. brain when I woke up on 3 hours of sleep, what my brain originally produced, and then I think we could edit it live on the show if we want to, because I think there are some changes I want to make. We'll see though. The buys, I think I'm locked in on this though. Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, Alabama.
No questions there.
Okay, cool. This is where I think we'll have some debate. So let's go to the first round. Georgia, USF. Ole Miss, Miami, Oregon, Texas, Texas Tech, BYU. The one thing I would maybe change after looking at this again, Texas Tech maybe all the way up to number 6, possibly.
Yeah, I think you could do that. I mean, the way they dominated at Utah, the way they dominated
BYU.
What was the number 7 team in the country in BYU. Oregon, that Iowa win, I'm trying to think of any other ones. That was really their first big win, wasn't it? When you really think about it?
Yeah. These are the first 4 out, by the way, for anyone wondering. Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, Notre Dame, USC.
Well, I know you.
And you could change the order of that, too.
I know you'll ruffle some feathers with that Notre Dame one. But I'm with you on that the Navy, dominating Navy's big, but they do that every year now. And Notre Dame, to me, should not have been, there's a lot of people on this, but they should not have been number 10 to start. I think it kind of set a bad precedent where they should have been probably 15 or 16 with the resume they had. And then, obviously, we know, with especially as dominant a tape as they put out there in the numbers, that if Notre Dame goes 10-2, they're going to get in.
They're going to get in.
But the precedent should not have been set in the initial rankings.
Yeah.
They should have been 15, 16, and then let the chaos ensue. And then, it would have happened already now that, by that lot, let's say we had Notre Dame number 16.
Yeah.
All right. You just had Louisville and Virginia lose already. So they're moving ahead of that. The ACC's not going to get an at-large. Right. Yeah. So, and then Notre Dame just creeps their way in there, and the Pitt win would be big if they were to beat Pitt. Huge game. But that's next week, right? We got that coming this week, don't we?
Yes.
Man, we got some big games. The ACC is wild.
The Notre Dame, I think you can argue them maybe above Vanderbilt. So I think the order of the first 4 out, you could change it maybe a little bit too. But I would leave Notre Dame out right now. By the way, if you're wondering, Miami, who's the 11th seed, is my highest ranked ACC team, but they're in trouble because they might not even make it to the title game.
Your problem is they have a very windy path. It's tough to tell how they would get there. They would need a whole lot of mess.
I have Miami over Georgia Tech.
You have Miami above Georgia Tech
barely
right now. Okay. That's probably the one change that most would make at this
Yeah,
point. Is that Georgia Tech with just the one loss, and they still have a couple of big games.
I just think the Miami wins that they've had this year, like over Notre Dame, is better than anything Georgia Tech's done all year.
That's reasonable. Yeah, it's just that the conference standings are not going to bear that.
For any Miami fans like celebrating me having them in the playoff right now, I mean, they're in trouble because if they don't win the ACC, they're not going to get in most likely. And I don't even know if they can make it to the ACC title game right now without some help.
If they didn't get in at 10-2 last year,
they're not
going to do it this year because last year they had the best offense in the country, and you could go, well, they could. I don't. This Miami team offensively, even yesterday against Syracuse, I was not all that impressed.
So they're the highest ranked ACC team right now. But the fact that they're behind in the standings in the ACC, they're in trouble because if they don't win that conference, they can't even. Right now, they're not in the title game right now, and they need some help to make the title game. So yes, they are my highest ranked ACC team, but that does not mean that they're not in trouble to make the playoff this year. So they're currently in the playoff because they're the highest ranked team in the conference, but they're not even in line to make the title game right now. So that's a big problem for the Hurricanes right now. So yes, they are the number 11 seed by default. But they're in trouble. I think Georgia Tech has a much cleaner road to the playoff than Miami does right now.
Man, you gave BYU the Texas Tech rematch here right off rip.
Yeah, so I'm almost like maybe not do Texas Tech BYU maybe for the third time in a row or third time this season, I should say.
I'll tell you what. You talked about moving Texas Tech maybe up to 6. You get those two D lines on the same field.
Oh yeah.
Oof, against them, Texas.
What would you do? Let's edit it live. How high would you put them? Because I think you can argue them at least up to 6.
I think at least. I would probably put them ahead of Oregon.
All right, most up to 6, I should say. Okay, above Oregon. I think Ole Miss is tough.
Ole Miss
they lost to Georgia. Their loss is better than Texas Tech's loss.
Yes,
losing by 8 to Georgia. But Texas Tech has, 2 wins better than anything Ole Miss has done?
Ole Miss, let's see, they beat LSU, which doesn't look so great now. And I'm trying to think of Ole Miss.
Ole Miss beat LSU. They beat Tulane, for what that matters. And they beat Oklahoma.
That matters.
Actually, no, they beat Oklahoma. So Oklahoma, I put above Utah.
Would you put them above BYU?
No, I would not. I just can't.
So then you've got Texas. You would think about Texas Tech at 6, and then Ole Miss, and then Oregon.
Yeah, potentially.
Okay, that makes sense.
I think 6, 7, 8. I would, in some order, would be that. That'd be the order. Right
yeah, I think I could see, especially with the way they just blew out. BYU stood no chance in that game. I think I probably would have Tech at 6, and then go Ole Miss, Oregon. BYU should absolutely still be top 10. Despite that, I mean, it's at Texas Tech. Big chance to bounce back here. Obviously, they've got TCU this week, Cincinnati after that. And Texas, boy, that Texas-Georgia game.
It's huge.
What's that? What that is going to be, this Texas-Georgia game coming this week.
And then they got A&M later on, too.
Man, oh, man.
Yeah.
But it's still, you talk about big games. They're coming in the SEC, too.
Do you want to tease what we're going to do Tuesday?
Well, of course, it's several games we've already mentioned, so they've already gotten this ran, or at least half of it. But, of course, we have Texas and Georgia, basically Texas season on the line. I would say the same for Oklahoma and Alabama. And look, Oklahoma maybe has a 9-3 case, but there's a lot of good teams here at the top. Oklahoma's got to go to Alabama and find themselves a win. Can they do it against Heisman candidate Ty Simpson and company? Notre Dame and Pitt. What a ball game this is going to be. Notre Dame raging hot. Pitt raging hot ever since they put Mason Heinschel in at quarterback. That's going to be an outstanding game. And really, I would say Notre Dame's last step towards getting in the playoff there, but not an easy one. One of the games of the year in the ACC that we did not expect and still involves a 5-4 team, but Virginia going to Duke. Is Chandler Morris going to play? Can they slow down Duke's offense? They're really good, even though sometimes they turn the ball over too much. BYU, we just mentioned, got to bounce back against TCU. Iowa and USC, we're not done with Iowa yet. They're done for the playoff race, but they get to go out and challenge USC, who still has a path to 10-2 maybe with Jade Mayava and company. USF Navy, one of the biggest games left of the year in the American, increasingly looking like the American title winner, could be the playoff team out of the group of 5. We're going to add 2-3 more games in here, we think, maybe end up with 10. Those are the 7 right now. Maybe, what are we thinking? Utah-Baylor? Is that going to be something there?
Yeah.
Maybe Utah-Baylor works its way. We're going to add 2 or 3 more. Those are the 7 we have locked in right now, but some huge games already, and we're going to add a couple more in there. It's going to be a wild slate next week, too, especially in the SEC.
Yeah, some absolutely massive games that we got coming down the pipe in Week 12 of college football. The Tuesday preview show, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, live on this channel. Do not miss it. For producers back there in Tyler, Eli, and Quinn, for Dalton, Wasserman, I'm Max Chadwick. We'll see you guys on Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time with our live Week 12 preview show.